Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Crucible. We got an exciting show for you tonight. Got a debate between these two fine gentlemen here. Um, one second here. Uh, Looks like we got an exciting debate tonight between Adam Green and Jeem, coming at you with a little bit of a theological debate. Um, we are gonna let the chat fill up here a little bit. Let some guests stream in. Um, let's You guys want to take a minute to introduce yourselves, Adam and Jeem?
Okay, I guess I'll just go ahead. So, introduction to myself. I'm Jeem. My channel is @Jeem or @Jeem Apologetics. I essentially look at the Bible. I deal with some issues of textual criticism, try to course correct some things that I think are incorrect in modern Christianity, and kind of just do a defense of the historic religion. So I cover all sorts of topics from philosophy to theology, apologetics, history. That's essentially it. You can go check out my channel. I also wrote a book, which is on Amazon, and yeah, that's about that.
And I'm Adam Green. I've been on a few debates here before, you guys may have seen. And I've been making videos at No More News since 2014 on religion, Zionism, Judaism, Christianity, and in politics and in the news, doing debates and interviews and compilations. And happy to be here. Thanks for having me back. Good to see everybody. I guess they're still working on things.
Yeah, I think the moderator had an audio debate.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the issue with his mic is. I can hear you guys fine. You're coming through on the stream, so I guess you can just go into it back and forth. If you want to make your opening statements, I believe Adam said he would go first. So if you want to go ahead and make your opening statement, go ahead.
It's okay if I do a share screen at some point during it.
Jeem, what do you have any issues to that or with that?
No, I'm fine. I'm not going to do it personally, but yeah, go ahead. That's fine.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I got 5 minutes. I will start now.
Okay.
So we're talking today, is Christianity a myth? And it absolutely is a myth. It has all the hallmarks of a myth. It's predicated on the myths of the Old Testament, of the Torah. And what it is these myths of messianic prophecies from Torah Judaism are the myths that have theologically and spiritually conquered the world in the last 1700 years. Fulfilling the prophecies, because the whole purpose of Yahweh, the God of Israel and Zion, is theological conquest and dominion over all the nations of the earth. Like it says in Daniel 7, the Son of Man, the Messiah, was given authority, glory, and sovereign power. All nations and peoples of every language worshipped him. The whole purpose of the Messiah is to have the nations, every knee will bow to the Messiah, to the Davidic king. And this is how Yahweh conquers all of the pagan idol worship, all the competing religions around the world, all their myths and traditions and cultures and religions. They were the target. Yahweh's the jealous God. He wanted to theologically conquer the world with the Messiah, and through Christianity and Islam that both believe in this prophesied Messiah of Israel. It is got the two religions, the Abrahamic matrix. It's the Judeo paradigm, and the rabbis will brag about this. Their whole mission as the nation of priests was to be the light to the nations and have the Gentiles bow down to the Messiah and the God of Israel. There's the prophecies everywhere, all over. This is also what rabbis say about their Messiah and what Christians say. The Christians say, yes, the God of Israel, he needed to conquer all the pagans. And ultimately, at the end of the day, rabbis and Christians both essentially want the same thing. They want the Davidic Messiah as prophesied in the Torah to come and have a one world religion, essentially. That's what the end times prophecies consist of. We have other books like Psalm 22 talks about how all of the nations shall worship before thee. talks about bowing down. It talks about licking the dust. All throughout Psalms, all throughout Isaiah, we find this type of stuff. And it is a myth. It's a prophecy deception. They were never chosen, like Christians like to say. They don't have magical powers to predict prophecy. They don't speak for God. They don't live in the Holy Land, but Christians affirm all of these things. Christians affirm that their God is the one true God of the universe. Before Christianity existed, all Christians acknowledged that the only people that had the right God and the right religion were the Jews, who were the only people waiting for a Messiah. And that Messiah, the role of that Messiah was to conquer Rome at the time, was to conquer Edom, as it's prophesied, was to conquer the nations, all of the earth. That's the ultimate goal of the Messiah, and largely that's what Christianity and Islam did. And the rabbis will brag about this today. They boast about it online. I saw in the video, Jeem said that they're being sarcastic. They are not being sarcastic. We've got hours of these rabbis bragging all consistently. The orthodox, official Maimonides view, Christianity and Islam are preparing the world for the Messianic age and weaning the Gentiles off of their gods to worship the God of Israel that chose them. They say it's prophecy fulfilled. And if we look today, all of the converging end times prophecies, the Armageddon cults, the death cults, wanting Gog and Magog wars, and the end times belief that there needs to be chaos and birth pangs of the Moshiach. Through these myths, they are manifesting, following the prophecies, following the Torah like a script to play out their Judeo blueprint. And we have the earliest layers of the New Testament, Paul's epistles, Hebrews, 1st and 2nd Peter. They don't talk about a earthly Jesus, a preacher that spoke in parables and did miracles. They speak of a heavenly celestial Messiah that they found from scripture and mystical experiences, ascension experiences like revelations. Paul never even knew Jesus, as you guys know. He said explicitly, insisted that he only knew of Jesus through scripture and revelation. And if that was him seeing the Lord. So all the Christians before him, that's also how I believe how they saw the Lord, from scripture and revelation. And then the Gospels are decades later, still hallmarks everywhere, symbolic fiction, fake prophecy fulfillment that wasn't intended for Jews. It was for the Gentiles, the apostle to the Gentiles, and that's how Paul took the myth that conquered the world to the Gentiles. And there's my 5.
All right. Jeem, you want to go ahead and give your opening statement?
Yes, let me start my personal timer now. So my thesis is that everything that Adam and other people like him, he's of course not the only person on earth to hold these positions, Adam and people like him who hold these ideas, their idea of what they dislike that Christianity has done to Europe, for the most part, seems to be European mythology and European philosophy. So a lot of what neo-pagans, atheists, etc. complain about Christianity, such as absolute universal morality and pacifism and things like that, aren't actually found in the New Testament. I do not believe the New Testament teaches pacifism, for example. I don't believe it teaches extreme Platonic dualism either. And I think that a lot of the issues that people rightly critique some of the churches throughout history, especially from the East, we consider the Latins and everybody else after them to be heterodox, so they're not really true churches. A lot of their issues, I believe, have an origin in Greek philosophy, whether that's with Aristotle, Plato, or Plotinus. So I think a lot of the theories of attacking against the Christian religion have to do more with the melding of Greek ideas with the biblical ideas rather than just the biblical ideas themselves. One example is people complain about blood sacrifice and they claim it's like a satanic idea. But for the first 1,000 years of Christianity, the primary understanding of atonement, as it were, is actually Christus Victor. So they didn't even believe in the level of satisfactory atonement that would come later in the Latin Church. So this idea that from the get-go, Christians believe in like this blood sacrifice and this demon worship and whatever other complaints there are, that wasn't there for the first millennia. And again, I would say, the errors that we have a lot of elders who say that the primary heresies come from Hellenism. I would definitely agree with that, like I already mentioned with pacifism and other such things. Another problem I have is that Adam and other people like him tend to conflate Old Testament Judaism with a specific ethnicity. He mentioned Edom, which I'll get to once we actually begin the debate. But one issue with saying the entirety of the Torah and the rest of the Pentateuch is all, sorry, the Torah and the rest of the Old Testament is all Jewish is kind of wrong, because from Adam all the way to Abraham, there are no Jews. Now, you might say, okay, Abraham begat the first Jew, but there wasn't really a Jewish identity. The etymology of that word comes from Judean. So not until the time of David do we actually have a proper Jewish or Hebrew identity. The Hebrew people, of course, existed during the time of Exodus, but their identity wouldn't become fully Jewish until that time period. So for most of what the Bible considers the history of the world, it was not just salvation for the Jews. We see this in the story of Midian when Moses meets his father-in-law Jethro. He's an Arabian Midianite, yet he's a high priest. So he's a Gentile. He's not even a Jew, but he's following the very same religion. We see in Genesis, God says that he will enlarge Japheth and he will dwell in the tents of Shem. Japheth means people of European and Anatolian and Iranian ancestry. So right there, the Old Testament, the Torah, which is supposed to be Jewish Semitic supremacy, is saying that Europeans will be the ones who spread knowledge of the one God, not the Jews themselves. I also have to contest that this idea that the prophecies of the Old Testament concerning the Messiah, which were mentioned, are some kind of a myth. I find that hard to believe, because that's based on the idea that we're already supposing the entire Old Testament is false. The Old Testament can be proven to be true, or at least considered reliable, then I don't see a problem with proper prophecies actually predicting what the Messiah would do. And another thing, the Jews racially have absolutely no specialty in the world whatsoever at this day. They haven't for over 2,000 years. I don't believe in this idea of two covenants. So that's a heresy where you have the Jews who have their method, which is keeping the Torah, the Sinai contract. And then for the Gentiles, they want us all to do the Noahide laws or be Shabbos Goy, but that's not a biblical concept. It's actually blasphemy for any person living or who acknowledges the one God to blaspheme the Sabbath in the Old Testament. And the foreigner was expected to convert and do the entire law of Moses, not only a portion of it. That includes in the book of Acts, which of course we'll probably get to. The point being, this idea that there's two different religions and the Jews still have some kind of relevancy in their religion is completely false. It's rejected by the Orthodox Church, rejected by the Catholic Church. And I think that when rabbis are saying stuff such as, we created Christianity to do a Torah victory over Europe, I think that's just 2,000 years of cope, because they didn't think that in the first century. And originally the Pharisees were not thinking that they were going to conquer Europe with what they assumed was just a cult that would die out. So that's my opinion on that. And I believe I only have 10 seconds left, so I'll just stop right now.
All right. With both of the opening statements being done, we are going to move into open debate here. You guys take it away.
I can't hear Adam.
Yeah, I think you're muted.
Sorry, I'm muted for your opening statement.
Thank you.
So the last point, you said that Judaism or that Christianity is not a Torah victory over paganism. You realize that the rabbis have been saying this all along. And what was the purpose? Did Yahweh not want to conquer paganism?
Oh, no. I will clarify
did
that.
Jesus not stamp out paganism?
I will clarify that. He did, and that was a good thing. I'm saying that it was not some kind of a racial Jewish trick to trick Europeans into doing that.
So you agree with the rabbi then that it's a good thing?
It is a good
that
thing.
The Torah conquered the pagan world.
Yes, it is a good thing,
exactly.
but their religion is
false. It's
false.
a good thing, exactly.
Yes, it is a good thing, but it's not a spot where they're allowed to keep their religion, and we have a different religion, Christianity, for us.
They kept their religion, and it wasn't created for them. Maybe initially it was theirs, but it was innovated and changed and was made a Gentile religion.
Right, but that was
Gentiles.
That was done by Greek Europeans.
That was done by Paul.
Okay, what did Paul do? How did he adapt the religion?
Paul was working with. He said, according to the scriptures, he was the apostle to the Gentiles, and he went after the uncircumcised to get them to turn away from their idols and worship the God of Israel. You said Noahide laws are not a biblical concept. Are you aware that even your guys' guru, who's scared to debate me, Jay Dyer, acknowledges that in Acts 15, the Jerusalem Council, James and Peter, are telling Paul, go to the Gentiles, get them to worship God of Israel, and follow this list that consensus and scholarship says is a list of the Noahide laws.
It's not a list of the Noahide laws.
The rabbis saying Christianity is bringing the bringing the Gentiles to be almost perfect Noahides. They think Islam's
Right.
almost perfect Noahide as
But
well,
not Noahides.
minus the idolatry and
Okay.
the history of blaming them for killing Jesus. They're Noahide compliant. They
Okay.
think, some Jews say that it's idolatrous. Others say it's idolatrous only for, it's okay for Gentiles because
Got
it got them away from paganism to worship the God of Israel. Where's that wrong?
All right, let me explain. The Acts chapter event that you're mentioning, the Council of Jerusalem, that's what you're referring to, right? With the James and the declaration, you shall avoid blood, etc. Acts chapter 15, verse 21 says, actually, let me pull up the verse right now. I want to read the exact verse. Let's go to it. Here.
Right before that verse, they cite a prophecy that talks about conquering Edom.
Right, but let's go to the verse first. For Moses of old time hath in every city them that preach him being read in the synagogues every Sabbath day. So the whole purpose of these a couple of Noahide laws is that James is assuming people are going to learn the rest of the law of Moses. There is no, you learn just a couple laws and that's it. You have to know the entire
They
morality.
didn't want them to circumcise.
They did.
They didn't want them to convert to Judaism. They had to be
Yes, they
separate.
did.
They needed to be grafted in as a separate religion. They didn't want them to convert
Not true.
and keep Sabbath and keep kosher. It's a separate religion.
not a
Judaism
separate
for
religion.
the Gentiles. Being
No,
grafted
Judaism
in.
is created after the New Testament. What is called Judaism today is Pharisaical Judaism, which is based on the oral tradition of the Talmud, not on just the Old Testament. So there's Torah Judaism, then there's Christianity, and Rabbinic Judaism come out of that.
I'm aware. You're not telling me anything I don't know. What was Paul's agenda? He thought he was chosen by God to be the apostle to the Gentiles, to get the Gentiles to all, the Romans to all bow down to Jesus and the God of Israel, right?
That. I don't deny that. I'm just saying it is not a rabbinic
You conspiracy because you love the conspiracy. It's like Stockholm syndrome.
No, you're misconflating
you wanna be
what the
conquered,
word
be a
means.
sheep.
Okay, first of all, I'm not European, man. Like, it has absolutely no bearing on me whether Europeans converted or not.
No, I know. I could tell from your video you don't like Europeans.
I have nothing
you
wrong.
said that it's European people don't want to be replaced by multiculturalism.
No, I did not. When did I say that?
We got all your anti-white statements.
Wait. You took that out of context. What I said is, if you want to defend your people and stop immigration, you should follow what the Jews actually did. The Romans are the cosmopolitans who accepted people of every race, religion, and language. The Jews were the ones.
Your multiculturalism promotion, right?
Yeah, it comes from the Romans, not from the Jews.
Yeah, no, they had a Roman identity. They had a huge empire.
Okay, but
they weren't pushing diversity as a religious concept over the commercials. Don't try to compare ancient Rome to now.
Commercials.
It's absurd. Hold on, let me address a point because before we move on, you mentioned in your opening statement, you said the things that I shouldn't like about Christianity come from European theological, philosophical thought, right?
Specifically Greek and Latin, yes.
Like the Cynics, like the Middle Platonists. Those aren't my problems with Christianity.
Why?
You're wrong. It's the Jewish elements which are
what's wrong with the
pervasive.
What's good about the Greek part? Why don't the Greek parts bother you?
Let me explain to you.
Okay.
They adopted, they overlaid Messiah on pagan mythologies to market to them, so it would more easily convert them, to appeal to them. That's why the pro-Roman bents, to get them to adopt this religion. They couldn't beat them on the battlefield. Instead, they could have a spiritual victory with a spiritual Messiah and work theological warfare against the Romans.
Okay,
and
you're
ultimately, 300 years later, they adopted the God of Israel. The Yahweh, through the Messiah, all according to the prophecies, conquered Rome, their enemy.
But if you read the Gospel of Luke, they ask him, why aren't you conquering Rome right now? He said, this sign is not for you. You think all prophecies have to be fulfilled.
They did it by the word of his mouth.
That's not how they're fulfilled.
Joseph does it by the word of his mouth.
That's not how they're fulfilled. Prophecies in the Old Testament and the New Testament are God's revelation. He can revoke them if people don't actually adhere to what he told them to do. Such as, if you don't do my laws, I will eradicate you. But if they do the laws, they're fine. God says that many times. I was reading in the book of Chronicles, I'm going to go and destroy this entire lineage. But then they turn around and get away from idolatry, and the prophecy is failed? No, because it's not soothsaying.
No, prophecies are fake.
Jews don't believe in Greek soothsaying. They don't believe in predicting the future. They just
only the future, according to you.
No, because as I've told you, okay, how come for the first 3,000 years, Jews aren't the people who are
You're changing the subject. Hold on, I didn't even get to finish my point.
Okay.
About you made a point in your opening statement. You said that it should be the European elements of Christianity that are the problem. No, it's the Jewish elements, and because it's got all of the world, all of the nations believing that the Son of God is the Messiah.
Okay.
And the one true God of the universe is the God of the chosen people. That's the issues. The New Testament says salvation is of the Jews. Those are the problems with Christianity. What's led the number one religion in America, all of our politicians worshiping a foreign land and a foreign people and thinking they're holy and the land's chosen and they're because of their faith. Cursed if you curse them, blessed if you bless them.
That's futurism, dude. You don't understand that.
Those elements of Christianity are the issue.
Okay, I agree, but that is the heresy of futurism, which was created by 2 Catholic Jesuits. It is not the historic position. Christians have never thought that the Promised Land, that the Israel of the Bible, is at all related to foreign policy of this modern day. All the historic churches deny that. That is an issue that comes about via futurism. Point being, this idea is futurism. So yeah, I agree with you. American Zionists are imbeciles. They don't understand proper biblical theology. They don't understand any of the tradition. It is a brand new idea. If the debate is evangelical Christianity stupid, I would say yes. You would be correct about that. But that is not historical.
So why is the stupid Christianity the one that with all the influence and the power in doing their agenda?
Because America is majority neo-Protestant. It's not majority Catholic or Orthodox. This country is, in my opinion, this country's majority not Christian. So you can't just straw man.
You think we're satanic and doomed, right? Hey, no. you said that I'm just saying you believe in the concept of a certain tribe in the Middle East was a chosen people.
Only from Moses to Jesus is that covenant active.
At one point you did. You're affirming their covenant and their chosen status. That's why Christianity is playing.
You said that I don't think that let's just use the word rabbinics, shall we? We won't get the video tagged here. I did not say the rabbinics are not racial. They're extremely racial and tribal. What I'm saying is they did not create Christianity for that purpose 2,000 years ago. And the religion they held 2,000 years ago is not the religion of Maimonides, who you quoted. Maimonides believed in divine simplicity. He said God is not composed of parts and he's everywhere all at once. The Merkabah mystics said that God had a physical body and lived on a physical throne like the Salafis believe in Islam. So it's not even the same religious belief whatsoever.
Okay. Not even whatsoever.
Hey, guys, sorry to break you up here. I think we'll just take a quick break here.
Can I talk right now instead of dead air? So to say it's a completely different religion, they have all the same foundations. They believe the Torah. There's been some progression. There's been some development, but it's still the same religion. You know, they're circumcising. They're following the holidays. They want a temple. They want a Messiah. They want to have the sacrifices.
But their hatred of Europe.
It's like I can list so many things that are exactly the same. And to play this like semantic, creating these false distinctions, like you go, oh, it's not the Jewish God because actually,
no, it is. No, it is.
I got you. Hold on, let me finish. I got you. Abraham wasn't he was a Hebrew. I'm not aware of this or have addressed this before. It's the same concept, just different classifications at different times. But for 600 years before Christianity existed, 600 years exclusively, it was classified as one people, the Judeans.
But there were many different sects.
Are you saying there was one sect that were waiting for a Messiah? That's why.
Okay, you do realize the Pharisees were Epicureans. They barely believed that God even interacted with the world. They're a different sect than the people of Moses. Completely different religion.
No,
they were bought out during the time of the Greek invasion.
There wasn't a monolithic one Judaism in Second Temple Judaism. Okay. And another part that you get wrong is you said this is not a plot. This like a messianic plot to conquer all of the nations with the God of Israel, and you're contributing to that.
No, you're conflating that with racial issues. It is a plot to make the world religious in the God of Abraham. Yeah, but it's not a racial
I haven't
plot.
Talked about racial anything. I'm talking about theology.
Okay, so why is it bad? Why is it bad if the whole world worships the God? What's the problem with that?
A one world dictatorship, a one world religion, and when it was their master plan to begin with?
I don't understand why it's
bow
bad,
down to and let them speak for God, and they're the special children.
No, they're
not. See the issue there?
Okay, what religion persecuted them the most?
Most Christians think they were.
What did they persecute the most?
You pagans. They eradicated paganism, and Judaism survived and is more powerful than ever. And now they're serving them as their greatest allies. So,
but most Christians do paganism.
Hold on. I want you to address this same concept. It's the same Torah. For 600 years before Christianity, they were known as Judeans, or you know what? It says explicitly in the New Testament. God the God of the Jews only? No, of the Gentiles too. You worship the God of the Judaists. And that was their goal, was to get you to bow down to their God. And you don't see any problem with that?
Because Paul says
that's a big issue. And it's fake. It's fake. They were never chosen.
Adam, you got to let Jeem respond to you.
Go ahead.
Paul says quite clearly, this is part of the conspiracy apparently. not everybody who is of Israel is Israel. Jesus says the same thing. It doesn't matter if you're sons of Abraham. You have no supremacy over somebody else who keeps the religion perfectly. Jesus and Paul both say that. Not everybody who's of the blood of Israel is the spiritual Israel. And by the way, the spiritual Israel means modern Christians are, not some land in the Middle East. That's not at all what it means. And for most of history, you can ask, let's say rabbinics, who detest Christianity, who say, oh, Christianity is Edom and whatever. What religion is the one that persecuted them the most? Was it Roman paganism? That was only during a certain time period. It's actually the Catholic Church that persecuted the rabbinics the most. So it backfired against them. They're supposed to be these guys.
They also protected them. They gave them them a victim status. And there were many pagan empires long before Christianity that conquered, destroyed their temples, enslaved them, completely wrote against their beliefs. But no, you worship their God, believe their holy scriptures, believe that they were once the chosen people. They prefer, and then the top sages throughout Judaism have said Christianity is still has issues, but it's better than all the paganism. The ultimate goal, Messiah conquering the nations, and you just say it's a good thing. You don't say I'm wrong. You say it's a good thing. You agree with me and say it's a good thing.
Well, you haven't proven it to be wrong. The whole issue here is that you're saying just because happened to be in a covenant where they were the prime people receiving it, and now the whole world worships, or much of the world worships that God, it's somehow bad. I don't see why that's bad if it improved society, if it improved people, and everything that we believe, such as human rights and universal morality, comes from the synthesis of biblical values with Greek religion. Like, everybody's aware of that from a philosophical standpoint. So I don't know what is the problem, even if you're right, and this was all like a trick from the beginning, and they're just hoodwinked the whole world. Why would it be wrong if it's a benefit? That's my question.
Well, it didn't benefit. It created the Dark Ages. It was anti-science. It halted progression. It erased the classical world. It oppressed and was authoritarian. It caused endless division and wars. There's all types of problems. The world could have been a lot better if Christianity never took out. We don't know because we never got to see that history play out. So it's also led to these end times prophecies in our politicians today. All the top Republicans in America, Pence, Trump, Pompeo, Nikki Haley, Ted Cruz, are all best friends with John Hagee, and they're all Christian Zionists. That's what Christianity led us to.
Okay. Can I respond to that really quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Dude, I completely say that all these guys like Pompeo and these evangelicals are total kuffar. Like, they don't represent proper Christianity. So I don't care if they're futurists. And then to your other point, I think it did benefit. And you saying it was anti-religion is kind of ahistorical. Like, a lot of the people who were persecuted by the Catholic Church in the Middle Ages, they were persecuted because at first their ideas didn't even sound at all, such as what is his name, Bruno, whatever. Like, he was a whack job and a mystic, and he got to his conception of centrism, based on philosophy, not based on any evidence. So a lot of that had to do with that. But again, that's not my tradition. The Catholic Church wasn't sitting around about the Bible. Like, they had Aristotle. In fact, the reformers hated the fact that there was too much Aristotelian philosophy in the Catholic Church. They said, you guys aren't even following the Bible. You're just sitting around talking about logic and philosophy. So how did the church stop science?
What does this have to do with Christianity not being a myth? Like, where's your proof Christianity is real?
You brought that up,
Gospels
man.
are reliable. Or Paul never knowing Jesus and just seeing him from the scripture. Like, you realize ancient Christians were searching the scriptures for hidden mysteries to be revealed by connecting the right verses and the right interpretation. That was traditional Judaism. That's what they created, a midrash, fake prophecy fulfilling. They had all the prophecies, they had all the scriptures, and they concocted a savior narrative to fit it, and then sold this prophecy magic to the nations.
Okay,
that's how it's a deception.
My response to you would be, I don't understand how it's fake when they consistently get stuff 100% correct. Like the Daniel chapter 9, 70 weeks prophecy, the Messiah will come within 490 years after Darius II's declaration. That's exactly when Jesus roams the earth. But even if it's fake, how are they getting all this stuff right? Or how about, and then I'll let you answer, how about the fact that in the book of Psalms written by David, this is many centuries before Jesus walks the earth, before the Roman practices come about, that he'd never met a Latin person in his life, predicts in his Psalms that the Messiah would be fed vinegar. That's a Roman practice that was invented later. So if it is fake, if I grant you that, how are they getting all this stuff right? like
That's a
centuries
prophecy
beforehand.
of Psalm 69 that it didn't happen. Give me gall and vinegar for my drink. That's another just fake prophecy fulfillment. You say, how could it possibly be that all of these prophecies were proper prophecies were fulfilled? How is it not the simple explanation that they just wrote a story using the prophecies as inspiration, quote mining scripture, which they did. That's why the Septuagint is verbatim, word for word, put into the Greek New Testament. When Jesus and these guys were all, not Greek experts, they were speaking Aramaic.
It's not actually. It's not 100% one-to-one. There's a lot of verses where when they quote from it, it's neither from the Masoretic or from the Greek Septuagint. So there was a third Hebrew type.
There's numerous verses that are, though. I've seen it. New Testament,
I
Greek,
agree
Old
with you.
Testament.
The
It's
New
word
Testament,
for word. It shows it's
the
symbolic
Gospels
myth.
are original. You do realize that the Gospel of Matthew, purported by all the church fathers, was originally Hebrew, not Greek?
No, that's not true. That's
okay.
They don't believe that anymore.
They don't believe that.
They never found that. In fact, it's well known, and the consensus is that it's Mark in priority. Mark was the first gospel. Matthew expanded on it. Then Luke copied Matthew and Luke.
But all the church fathers are unanimous about it. We know exactly what happened to the copy. It says it was at the Library of Caesarea, Eusebius says, and a couple hundred years later, the Muslims burn it down when they invade the Levant. That's what happened to it. We know where it was. It also makes sense. The New Testament has these translations where it'll say, rabbi, rabbi, and then in brackets, it explains to the reader what that word means. Well, obviously,
this
Jesus
is a Christian misconception about the Gospel of Matthew being originally in Hebrew. Matthew copies and changes Mark word for word. That's how we know that Matthew copied from Mark. Most of Mark is in Matthew word for word. He copied it and expanded on it. Yes, this is well known. Read gospel fictions.
Dude, I've seen that.
Any books on Jesus mythicism or how?
Yeah, I've read Bart
Christianity
Ehrman
was
stuff.
fabricated as a myth.
Yeah, I've read Bart Ehrman stuff, but you do realize Bart Ehrman will acknowledge
he's a poor historicist. I've read his books as well.
So he's a poor historicist.
No wonder
he says that the New Testament is 100% copying the theology of the Old, and that Jesus is just a Torah extremist. He's not some Greek sage ghost who came down in the form of a man. He literally became man, is what the Gospel of John says. Paul doesn't say, just because he doesn't mention Paul's miracles. I'm just bringing this up because it was unanswered
or his
earlier.
Virgin birth, or the empty tomb, or Pilate, or
do you know what his epistles are about?
Nothing.
It's about writing to churches that already exist. Why is he going to redo everything they already know?
Because
he says you already know what I'm writing about.
Opportunities where he was arguing, where he could have cited one of Jesus' teachings or one of the parables or one of the he doesn't even talk about the betrayal of Judas. You realize that our earliest text of the Last Supper or the Lord's Supper comes from Paul, and he says he wasn't in attendance. He didn't learn it from any man. He got it from revelation. It's prophecy fulfilling. This, you got to understand that Jesus didn't walk the earth as a magical superhero, fulfilling all the prophecies of the nation of priests. They had all the prophecies and wrote a story fulfilling them. That's the simple explanation. It doesn't require. Is that not possible?
Your problem
could they have not just made it up from the Old Testament prophecies?
Hey, this argument is not about whether or not you believe in it.
Could they have made it up?
Somebody
could they have written? Hold on,
stop.
This is a question before you gaslight me. Could they had all the scriptures in front of them and then wrote a fictional, fabricated story from the prophecies in the scriptures? Is that possible?
If they didn't have third-party witnesses.
There's no witnesses.
But there are. Yes, there are.
No.
Josephus' comments on the historical Jesus.
Josephus is an interpolation, well-known fraud. No. And
there's a mistranslation. There's a mistranslation.
Josephus was born after Jesus supposedly died. He's not an eyewitness. If it was real, which it's not, he would have learned it from Christians because he wrote in mid-90s AD.
Okay.
The Gospels and Christian sects were already spreading around. He's not an independent attestation at all.
We can use no text.
Let Jeem respond.
We can use no text according to your own standard, which means your attacks of the Old Testament, where you say God is immoral, doesn't make sense because we don't have Plato's philosophy, because all of his writings and all of Aristotle's writings and all Plotinus's writings are like 700 years later, yet they're still the foundation of the West. That's a bigger conspiracy than, the Gospel's written like a decade later than when it happened. That's extremely close to dating as you can get 2,000 years ago. We don't have the modern standards we have now. We can check someone's tweet and see what they did. Point is, these men actually died for this cause. They thought it was fake or stupid or some kind of a hallucination. They wouldn't have been doing that.
People die for Christianity, and they claim, "Oh, I saw Jesus in a dream." They'll die for Christianity. Muslims do the same thing. Lots of religion have their martyr stories, which in Christianity are actually largely exaggerated and not even in the Bible, and later second century traditions that most people don't think are historical.
Such as what? What are some of those examples?
For example, Peter being crucified upside down. That's not in the Bible. That's later church tradition.
Okay, that's what the churches are built on. It's not just we have the Bible.
Yeah, and they lie a lot.
Do they?
Look at all the Apocrypha. Look at Nag Hammadi. It's obvious they're creating fabricated myths from Scripture.
That stuff's not canonized because they realize it's garbage. Like 90% of writings are not canonized.
It's the same genre as what the Gospels are as well. The Gospels are written by unknown people at an unknown time. They're not skeptics. They're not historicists. They're religious propagandists trying to influence and convert people to the religion. They don't cite their sources. They don't apply.
Dude,
any
nobody
skepticism.
did any of that
unreliable
2,000
myth.
years ago.
They have all the signs of a myth.
Then
all
so's
of the
Plato.
prophecy fulfilling elements.
Then
they
so's
didn't happen.
Plato,
It's a
and so are all
fabrication.
the philosophies. Everything that you base your worldview on doesn't exist then because it has much, much, much worse scholarship or chain of transmission to its original. Okay, then we
myths
can't
have
even use
influenced things.
Plato
Yes.
or Aristotle.
Myths have influenced things. That
Okay,
doesn't
then
mean
how-
they're true.
then let me
Just because
ask
they've
you-
influenced people doesn't mean that they're true.
Then let me ask you, you often say that the Old Testament is immoral. By what measure is it immoral if we cannot refer to Plato because he's a myth? So how is it immoral when God or erases people?
You said the Old Testament?
Yeah, like let's talk about the Old Testament. You always attack the Old Testament. What's wrong with it? Why is it bad if he erases people?
Yeah, the idea of a scapegoat atonement sacrifice, which is what the atonement of Jesus is all about. He's identified as the Yom Kippur goat and the Passover lamb.
Okay.
All of these ancient Israelites blood magic rituals, scapegoat rituals, the same thing that they do when they swing the chickens around today. It's the exact same concept. And this is what Christianity was built upon. So that's an immoral thing. If that's not justice in the world to sacrifice an animal and then you're forgiven for something, there should real justice. You have to actually, make things right, or you have to be the one that gets punished.
But in the Old Testament,
that's immoral
God does
for one.
punish them.
It's not accountability for one.
Excuse me. Let me answer that. That was, first of all, you don't just, the sin is on the animal, therefore God doesn't punish. God says in the Old Testament, if you do not follow the Sinai contract to a T, regardless of what you do, he will take away the land of Canaan from you. Also, you said blood sacrifice. I mentioned in my opening statement, for the first 1,000 years, the church has believed in Christus Victor. They weren't holding this blood sacrifice, satisfactionary atonement theology. This is a much later thing that the churches do not even agree on. So that's not a Jewish idea.
I don't care what the church,
you don't
churches
care.
say about
You're
it. They don't
attacking
agree
it.
on it. Yeah, some of them do. The point is,
For
the Old
1,000
Testament clearly
years, they
identifies
rejected
Jesus
it.
as a Yom Kippur goat and says
What's
the
wrong with
blood
that?
heals you. You drink the blood. Do you not think that you're symbolically drink the blood and you're going to say it's not a blood magic ritual?
But what you haven't demonstrated why that's bad. Like you're just saying it's weird, it's blood. Like why is that bad? Explain. Why is it a bad thing? Other than I think it's gross or whatever. Why is it bad?
If you're sacrificing animals just to eat them, I don't think it's bad. But when you're slaughtering blood dripping everywhere because you think it's a way of controlling people and getting to people.
But Christians don't do that. For the last 2,000 years, Christians do not do the animal sacrifice. That was already fulfilled by Christ.
I know.
This idea that they are making people do animal sacrifices, they're not. Nobody does it. So that's kind of a moot
you
point.
think he's the perfect sacrifice. In Hebrews, this is the problem. Hebrews doesn't talk about a preacher on earth. It talks about Jesus is in the copy of the heavenly of the earthly temples in the heavenly temple, and he's right. He's a heavenly figure fighting demons in space. Is where the original Christianity started from.
Okay,
completely
not really
mythological, just like every other
idea.
God.
The Ark of the Covenant being copied. Let me address that real quick. The Ark of the Covenant being copied on Earth is not a Platonic reflection. It is a physical object that God
I didn't
told
say
him.
anything about the Ark of the Covenant.
You said that Jesus is a copy from heaven. That's the
Not of
idea
the
of
Ark of the
Platonic
Covenant.
heavenly copies.
That's
using
what
the Ark of the
Hebrews
Covenant.
says. That's what Hebrews
He's not a
says.
Platonic form. There's zero
No, he's
Platonism
the
in the New
perfect form
Testament.
of a high priest.
Yeah, he's the
Melchizedek high
typology
priest.
of a high priest. He's not a Platonic heavenly copy. That's the other way around. What you mean is, in the heavens, there's the perfect example of a dog, so all dogs follow that on earth. That's Platonism. That's not in the New Testament. I don't know why you're making it a big deal if Christ is the perfect priest. Like, what's the problem with that? I don't see an issue with any of
I'm
this stuff.
explaining to you what it is, and the idea that he started as just Melchizedek is in the Dead Sea Scrolls. They're doing the same thing. They're connecting prophecies of Daniel and Isaiah. It's proof that this started as a myth, and I don't think it was the Pharisees, actually. I think it was a Qumran, Essene, Ebionite sect that mostly did it.
The Ebionites.
It wasn't.
And
It
the
was
Essenes.
also, you mischaracterize like the whole thing. To try to like straw man it. You say, you act
Okay.
like I say there was a cabal that all got together and they all agreed they're going to set this up. I don't think that it works like that. But you can't deny. In fact, you've already vindicated and acknowledged that my whole premise is right. Christianity is about the God of Israel conquering all the nations.
But you're acting like this is a specific problem where the rabbinics, I'm not going to use the word, the other word, the rabbinics hate Europeans more than other people. You said Edom. You are aware that Gentiles cannot be from Edom, like 99%.
Yeah, they hate Rome.
Rome is not Edom. No, it's not.
Dude,
Edom was an actual
It literally says in the Talmud
tribe.
verbatim that
Talmud,
Rome is Edom.
Dude, I don't follow the Talmud.
That's what they believe. That's what
Not
they
relevant.
follow. I don't care
No,
what you
that's
follow. I'm telling
that's
you
what
what
they
they
follow
believe.
right now.
I
That's
tell
not
you
what they
what they
followed
believe.
2,000 years ago. The Talmud was finalized in 550 AD. That's
I'm
after the Romans
I'm
already
aware
spanked
when it was
them.
finalized.
They've already
I'm aware
been
when it was
spanked.
finalized.
That's why they hate the Romans, not from the original, not the original belief.
They want vengeance on the Romans. You got this so wrong in your video trying to debunk me. You're like, oh, one rabbi says Edom is Christianity, and the other one says that it's Rome.
Yeah,
They all
which one?
agree that it's Rome. And then that morphed into the Holy Roman Empire, and then that's now Western civilization. That's their trajectory. That's the.
But that's
morphing
based
of it.
on Christianity,
This is
which
the
you said they
consensus with all of
invented.
them.
You said they invented Christianity. Why do they hate Edom so much of its Christianity?
They did.
But why do they
did.
hate it? Why do they hate it, dude? That doesn't
They
make
don't
any
hate
sense.
it. It was started exclusively as a Jewish movement.
Then why is it Edom? Why is the Christians
They hate
Edom?
it because it gave them some persecution, but they also see the benefit of it. They think they think it protected them in exile.
You do
They think
realize
it fulfilled their
Amalek-
prophecies and helped them return to the land.
You do
I know
realize
this a lot
Amalek
better
and
than you,
Edom,
actually.
Amalek and Edom are actual ethnicities from the Middle East. They had their time. It's over. Just because
I
just
agree.
because
Romans are not
rabbinics-
really Edom.
Yeah,
I agree.
So rabbinics
but this is
cannot,
what they believe.
cannot, hey,
that's
hey,
irrelevant.
That's what they say. That's what
That's
they
irrelevant
say
because
today.
this is what they believe.
Dude, you're talking about today. The topic is Christianity a myth, not is Talmudic garbage a myth. We're not talking about later
and the
traditions
Torah
from
that it's based
500
on.
years
It's
later.
largely myth.
It's not based on the Torah. The Talmud is not based on the Torah, man. It's based on later
dude,
tradition.
It's all
Can
commentaries.
I explain it
and-
really quick? Yeah, it's commentary.
No, you
That
don't. You
doesn't
don't
mean
need to
they're right.
explain stuff wrong that we already know.
Dude, how can Edom be Europe when Edom was already an ethnicity and nobody interpreted it as Europe until 500 years later?
I'm not saying it is. I'm saying the rabbis have said that this is what it is.
Okay, the rabbis
Do you not get the
who
difference?
are wrong, who don't practice Christianity, and who do not like Christianity. Just because they exist does not mean, oh, that's tied to Christians. We broke apart from each other 2,000 years ago.
Right.
They're allowed
You're
to make
you're
up
two
whatever
Jewish
they
factions
want.
fighting over the Messiah. That's why it's a
Okay,
controlled
okay.
dialectic.
But the
You're
Jews
playing
were better
the
than
villain
the-
role, the Esau
the Jews
role
were better
in their
than the
in their
Greeks.
historical story.
Okay, can you explain the difference between? Let's explain why are the ancient Hebrews. I mean, why are they so bad? What makes them worse than like the Romans and the Greeks? Why did everybody look down on them? Why are they so bad at them?
Why it's bad is because they developed a religion where they were looking for a Messiah, a redeemer to liberate them and then to like have dominion over the nations, like I showed you in Daniel 7. That's their goal. It's a blueprint for a global one world religion takeover plan. If you don't see the problem, you don't see the problem with that because you're for that. You want the same thing. You're participating in the Judeo takeover. That's the whole thing. Christianity is playing the role, advancing like. Before Christianity existed, you think the one true religion, the one true God was there with the chosen people in the Middle East. And they were waiting for a Messiah to come and do what?
They were waiting for the Messiah to make the entire world follow the one God. But why is
And
that
did Jesus
bad?
do that?
Yeah, but they didn't.
Okay,
Not the
that's
way
the
they
plot.
wanted. Not the way they wanted. They rejected him because he didn't take a sword and actually fight Rome. That's why they rejected him.
That's the whole story of Jesus and Barabbas. It was
Really?
a pacifist, non-violent, non-war form
Jesus
of warfare.
is Jesus
That's what
a
you're not getting.
pacifist?
They won with the teachings. It was a theological, spiritual conquest. You completely
didn't think
straw
that.
man me in your video, and you say Adam said Christianity was invented to destroy Rome. I didn't say it's destroy Rome. It's to spiritually conquer Rome. Theological
Okay.
subjugation.
But it didn't.
Yes, it
The
did.
Judaism,
Yes, it did.
the New
It clearly
Testament
did.
is not followed by Rome.
But it actually
Not even
did
the same
destroy the pagan Roman Empire. So,
Really?
I'm
why
right
did it
on both
exist until
accounts.
the 1400s, man? Why did it exist till the 1400s? Eastern Rome, same civilization. They're just Greek Orthodox. They exist
Hey,
for 1400s.
Did you hear my words carefully? I
Yeah, you
said
said
pagan
pagan
Rome
Rome.
was destroyed.
The Germanics destroyed it.
There was
Okay,
a largely fall of the Roman Empire. Christianity contributed to
The
that.
West.
Christianity
fine.
supplanted
Then why
it.
didn't that work in the East,
Christianity
though?
supplanted
Why
it.
didn't that work in the East? Carry the same logic. Why didn't it work in the East? How come the Byzantines didn't fall immediately? Because they all became Christians. They all
I
killed
didn't say
themselves
that
because they're
it wasn't
pacifists.
about falling immediately. It was about commandeering it and advancing the Torah. You said something about in your opening statement about how the Europeans were the ones that spread the Torah around the world. Like, I agree. Yep. They did the dirty work. Esau lived by the sword and served his brother. Now they're being scapegoated for that.
Genesis,
they eradicated the pagans. Who were the original anti-pagans? Who were the original anti-pagans and who had the goal of conquering all the gods of the world?
What the issue? You're just saying that they conquered it, so it's bad. Why is it bad, though? Like, we keep getting this subject.
I told you.
They won. They took over.
Do you want to be a slave? It's about enslaving, having you bowing down on your knees to the person that supposedly chose them.
Okay, what are the teachings? What are the bad teachings other than the Messiah stuff? What are some bad teachings in Christianity you think are bad for the world?
My argument is not that, Christianity has so many bad teachings. It does have some. It talks
what are some? Just say a couple of them.
It devalues the importance of this life because it gives you false hopes of eternal punishment or eternal afterlife. Believe in the prophecies or you're going to not be with God eternally. Like, there's a consequence to this. Scaring people into believing that they have the magic power of prophecies. That's problematic. It teaches you to Jesus says he did not come to bring peace but a sword. It's caused endless warfare and bloodshed between Europeans arguing over differences in Hebrew scriptures.
So pagans wouldn't do warfare? They wouldn't do warfare before the bad Christianity showed up?
No, they did, but I'm saying there was a lot of war in the name of religion. That's a known thing. Also, there's anti-family stuff where it says, putting the Savior and the King of the Israelites above your own family is a bad teaching as well.
Okay, but how come that's okay? Let me answer some of those. I'll go backwards.
My theory. This is
that's
irrelevant.
Fine. Just
really,
let me just answer them. I'll make it quick. I'll make it very quick.
This is really irrelevant.
All right, fine.
I don't need you. I know you're an apologist and you want to.
Dude, I'm not going to do what your normally presuppositional coping stuff. I'm going to actually.
I wasn't saying that.
Talk about it
from
Scripture.
Sorry. If you want to respond, you can go ahead.
Fine. I'll make it really quick. When Jesus says that he's going to separate and says, "Oh, you have to love me more than your parents," you realize in Mark chapter 7, he affirms from the Old Testament, from the Torah, that anybody who insults the honor of his father or mother should be put to deletion. He fully affirms that. He does not say, "Oh, that's gone now because I'm a Greek sage and the New Testament's over."
What if your parents are awful and don't deserve honor?
You put God over them, but if they're not doing anything awful and you dishonor their name, like do a horrible thing, get them in prison or something like that, that's what the teaching would be. Same applies to the rest of the New Testament.
Father against son, household against household, nation versus nation.
Unbeliever against believer. But if you have a believing family, there's no problem there. And then what was the first one you mentioned?
Declares war on everybody that doesn't believe in the prophecies.
Wait. What was
That's
the first
why
one?
it's a problem.
Can you remind me what the first one you said? The first problem you had with it? I forgot it. You said a couple problems with Christianity. What was that first one?
This is irrelevant because we're focusing on Jesus as Christianity as a myth. And the myth to theologically conquer the nation.
Okay, I say it's not a myth because the Bible accurately describes the world.
Teachings is not what.
Okay, do you think the Bible does not? Oh, sorry, this one's important. It ties into what I'm about to say. Do you think that the Bible does not accurately describe the world? And number two, it does not teach you to disregard your physical life whatsoever. That's idea from dualism, from Catholic heresy. It's not.
No, the Bible is not accurate of the world. It says that the earth is held up by pillars. It says.
How do you know that's what it means? Why can't it be an analogy?
Yeah, it means whatever it means.
It could be.
Could we move to my example A of a mic drop verse?
Fine.
Can you share the screen?
Go ahead.
Paul in Romans 15, according Isaiah said, the root of Jesse, the Davidic Messiah, shall rise to reign over the Gentiles. That's the plan, reigning over the Gentiles. Do you want to be conquered by a foreign king? You don't see an issue with being conquered by a foreign king that has a chosen supremacist people that are above the nations?
You asked me a question. That same Paul says the Messiah will be over the Gentiles. He also says not everybody who's a blood Jew counts as of Israel. There is neither Jew nor Greek. There is no racial supremacy or hierarchy whatsoever, only that you take this theology, which is superior to your theology. That's it.
Paul never says their chosenness, they're loved on account of the patriarchs.
You do realize
He
that Paul
definitely-
also says,
he-
hang on, let me, I got a verse right here for you. Here it is. Where is it? Yeah, St. Paul, letter to the Romans, a true Jew is one who loves and obeys God, inward circumcision. Not all who are of Israel are Israel. And then 1 Corinthians, verse 10, Paul tells Greek Gentiles that the patriarchs are their fathers. He doesn't say these are my fathers because I'm racially rabbinic.
You're just like proving
The
my
Greeks
point.
are saying these are your fathers.
So Paul said,
how's
hey,
it a
you
racial
guys can
hierarchy,
be the
dude?
chosen people now too. You get to be grafted in. Because of their transgression, salvation has come to you. You can be grafted in.
You just
he
said that
wanted
they're
them to
racially
worship
superior.
the God. So of course he's going to say things
But
like
dude,
this.
you just
Oh,
said
you're
the racially
chosen
superior.
people now.
Then he denies that. Then
He
he
says
denies
all of
that they're
Israel will
racially
be saved. He says,
Yeah.
What's the other grave? They're chosen according to the patriarchs.
Yeah, but they're your patriarchs too. They're your patriarchs too, Adam. They're not just the ancient rabbinics.
The adopted fellow heirs. But
yes,
can
but you
share
don't
my
have a
screen?
lower status. You don't have a lower status than anybody who's
that's
racially
what Paul
Semitic.
Said. That's what Paul said.
Paul said you do not have a lower
status. Do you think
status.
that he would have gotten converts if he said, well, the Jews are so much specialer than you, but you guys can still get it
Why are
too?
the main people he disagrees
That's not a good
with are other
salesman.
Jews?
He was a better salesman than that.
Oh, wait, you're just filling in the gaps here with abduction. You're just storytelling.
No,
Can you give us
okay.
a reason why he's this
Sure,
evil
sure.
guy?
I just told you why.
How?
You're
saying
offering
that
them
he's
good
winning.
things. He's saying, "Oh, you could be the same. You could be circumcised of the heart," which is affirming circumcision. Another problem with the Bible as well. Can we go to my thing, please? Because this is another important verse. So you're aware in Hebrews, Jesus is identified as the high priest in the order of Melchizedek, right? So this prophecy in Psalms 110 is clearly reference to Jesus' prophecy, right? Messianic prophecy.
Yeah.
It says, the Lord said unto my Lord, so God saying to the Messiah, sit thou at my right hand until I make thine enemies thy footstool. Who are the enemies of the ancient Judaists for 600 years before Christianity? Who were their enemies?
You gonna let me answer it?
The Greeks,
Or is
the
that
Romans.
rhetoric?
No, it's a rhetorical question.
Okay.
Let me finish the next verse. The Lord shall send the rod of thy strength. The rod represents the Messiah. Out of Zion, rule thou in the midst of thine enemies. So who is Jesus making his footstool, and over what enemies are believing in Jesus?
Want me to answer it?
Yeah, the Romans and the Gentiles, right?
Can I answer it? Okay. I'm going to say that no. First of all, there's no concept of these Hebrews even knowing what a Latin is. The Greeks come in the middle to the end of the historical books. The vast majority of people, that the rabbinics, the Hebrews, are their Semitic and Hamitic neighbors. Like, first of all, Exodus is all about destroying Egypt. That's not Roman. And then the Midianites and all these other people they fight are certainly not Roman. And then on top of that, if you look at the Old Testament, these rabbis are lying today when they say, oh, God loves us so much. In Jeremiah 31 and so many other places, God says they broke my covenant, so I'm going to move and I'm going to put the power and the authority into the hands of the Gentiles because my people have failed. They have done adultery against me. The Old Testament is filled with God saying that the Jews completely failed him. He allows the Assyrians to conquer them, Babylonians, and the biggest judgment of all, when they reject the Son, the Romans absolutely flatten Jerusalem. And they kill 300,000 people in a single battle, single war, I mean. So this idea that God is like, oh, the Jews are so great and all the Gentiles suck, that's not true. He uses Gentiles to punish his own children, his adoptive children, all the time.
That's what the rabbis say.
They admit that God does not care for them and that they've failed.
Yeah.
I haven't heard any rabbis who say that.
Yeah,
they all say
you guys are playing the Esau role perfectly. That's the whole point.
Really? Okay.
Dude,
do you understand?
Okay, you're being disingenuous now. It's clear. Paul literally says in 1 Corinthians, then the end will come, kingdom of God to the Father after he has destroyed all dominion, authority, and power, for he must reign until he has put all enemies under his feet. It's Jesus, like Joseph, that ruled behind the throne in Egypt.
My point
it's Jesus that supplanted and conquered all of the kings and queens of the Gentiles and the Roman Empire. And it's clear.
My point is that
the
his
church,
enemies are also his own people. All right, go ahead.
Except they're not the ones. He's not ruling over them. He's ruling over Christians. He's ruling over Gentiles. Is he not?
He is ruling over the entirety of the world. The Jews are made exempt from it. Matthew chapter 24 and many, or
who are the
23,
enemies?
many other verses.
Hold on.
Literally anybody who's against
the
God.
Christians
It's
that
not
came
just
up
Gentiles,
with Christianity. The first Judaists that came up with Christianity were reading verses like Psalms 2, Psalms 22, Psalms 110, Psalm 69, and they use those as prophecy to write and come up with the Jesus Midrash, with what they thought this heavenly figure that was hidden since before creation in the scriptures.
How's he hidden?
The word became that. This is what Paul says, that it's hidden since before time.
Okay, but you do realize that they already had the concept of there being the mediating word of God. It's called the Memra from the Old Testament. It wasn't like a hidden thing
the
that nobody could
Metatron,
find.
the Adam Kadmon,
No,
the primordial
Memra.
Adam. Yes, Jesus is the Logos, that intermediary.
No, he's not.
Angelic
No, he's not.
figure.
He is
That's
not the
where it
Logos
started
of
at.
Philo. He's not the
That's where
Logos
it
of
started
Philo,
from.
dude.
Yep.
He's the
As a
Memra
mythical
from the
angelic
Old
figure.
Testament, way before Philo invents his Logos theology, dude. I know you debated, what is it, E. Michael Jones? That dude, total kuffar, does not understand at all the concept of the mediating principle. He is not this Hellenistic Logos from Philo. He's the Memra. That's been around since the very beginning of the Bible. So you misapplied it. You said he's the Logos. He's not the Logos of Philo, dude.
So yes, he is, definitely. They were probably Paul and the early Christians were aware of Philo. He was like one of the most famous scholars in the Jewish world.
So you're saying the Christians were Hellenists now. You want to get into that?
Yeah, Paul. It's well known Paul Hellenized Judaism. It's a Hellenist mixed with Judaism, like mystery religion.
Hey, how?
Ascension. What? Excuse me?
How did Paul Hellenize it? Could you give some examples, like theology?
Because Jews were in the Hellenistic world with Philo before him. Like the Middle Platonists was getting mixed in, the idea of the heaven above and below, and the pneuma, the spirit, all types of Platonic stuff.
No, the
Can't list it
spirit
all off
already
the-
existed long
This is
before
well
the Old
known. This is
Testament.
well documented. Let me
Oh,
bring you back
appeal
to
to
you
authority
not being
fallacy.
honest about Psalms
That's an
110,
appeal to
okay? Because
authority.
I can't let you slither out of this.
Dude, I said yes, the enemies are under him, but you're saying that it only applies to Romans
Yeah,
and
well, where does
Europeans.
he
It's literally
rule?
anybody.
Where does Jesus rule?
The entire earth.
Rome, right? That's where the Vatican is.
I'm not a Roman Catholic, buddy. That's like
But,
not
okay,
even...
before Christianity existed, the only people reading this scripture and waiting for their Messiah to come to rule in the land of their enemies was who?
Anybody who followed the Bible, which was not
Who were
limited
they?
to
What were
racial
they?
Jews. They
Who
were
were
not
they?
limited to racial Jews, dude.
It mostly was, though. It was
There
Judeans.
were a lot of Greek converts
Oh, it
coming to the
wasn't all.
synagogues
It wasn't
trying
all.
to learn.
It's the vast majority. It's 99%. Give me a
Maybe
break.
more like 70%. There was
No.
a really...
Who were the
No,
others
seriously.
then? Converted
I said Greeks-
Gentiles?
Yeah, Greeks, Arabs, and other people were
No.
interested in the religion. Yes, they were.
Some of them were,
Dude,
but not that high of a
Moses'
percentage.
father-in-law is literally
they
from Saudi
discouraged
Arabia.
converts back then. That's what
3,000 years ago.
They discouraged. They discouraged converts back then. Also,
No, they didn't.
also in Isaiah 45, it says every knee will bow to the Messiah.
Okay.
Right. So who wanted that before Christianity? Who wanted to conquer all the idols before Christianity?
I don't understand
Whose goal
how
was
these
that?
Semitic guys in the Middle
Whose
East are
goal was
bad
that?
just because they want to conquer. Like, everybody wants to conquer. Like, you're saying the Romans don't want to conquer other people? I mean, that's ridiculous. That's how every civilization was back then. I'm asking
it's
you, why
okay.
is it
They
a bad
still believe
thing?
it today. They conquer us. That's just the way it is, and now we're sheep and slaves of the God of Israel, and it's all okay.
I don't understand.
And you love it.
You're acting like this, like, overtly pessimistic, dark age view of humanity is what most of the Bible and Christianity says. It's not. Like, there's no... Where's this, like, depraved slavery stuff you're talking about? Like, just because people have a God, that means their lives are
look at
nothing?
Christianity in America.
It's a disaster. I don't follow. These
okay, well,
sects are
that's where
different
this-
religions, man.
We
It's a
have
different
Christianity
religion.
in America because Christianity exists. Because they were susceptible. They already believe the scriptures. They're susceptible to any type of doctrines
No.
if they can push it with enough preachers. Yeah.
Dude, that's ahistorical. The
It made
East
us
is a totally
vulnerable.
different form of
It
Christianity.
made us vulnerable to be subverted by getting people to believe
Okay.
these are the
Do you
holy
think-
scriptures.
You
and
think
that they have-
Christianity is a pacifist religion?
There's verses that could be pacifist. It meant to fly under the radar and not be a threat to Rome and look militaristic, not be the Messiah ben David that is a victorious political military leader, but the suffering Messiah that conquers through the teachings, spiritual conquests. That was the approach they took, not battle on the war on the battlefield, but theological warfare. That's what it was. It was a mythical construction. It started as a Judaist movement that eventually, with Paul, targeted the Rome and the Gentile world. They're bragging about it today. Now they're turning them all kosher and their greatest allies and getting us set up for end times prophecies. Do you believe Jesus is going to return?
Yes.
And what has to happen before he returns?
Well, nothing to do with the land of Israel, the current state in the Middle East.
And
Nothing to
Antichrist
do with
doesn't. Is he going to come and destroy the Antichrist?
Yeah, but he's not some rabbinic Jew from Zion Stan or anything like that. Like that's a mixture of futurist
Zion Stan.
eschatology. Dude, that's futurist eschatology. I don't believe in that.
So what does the Antichrist have to do? Who is he going to be? Where is he going to be before Jesus returns?
He's going to be in the temple of God, which, by the way, we don't know exactly what that is. The word that Paul uses in that Greek word is different than the word he uses to describe the temple of Jerusalem. I reject any idea of there's going to be a third temple. I reject any idea that, the Jews have to have some kind of a part to play the eschaton. They're just an irrelevant religion for traditional Christianity. Totally irrelevant. Has nothing to do.
Are they not going to convert in the end times? Do you believe you have to believe in the birth pangs of the Moshiach? It talks about it in Matthew 24.
Yeah, but that could apply to literally anybody who's of racial Israelite ancestry, of which many thousands did convert in the first century.
Do you think Armageddon wars have to be on Earth before Jesus returns?
No, because you're basically throwing a futurist eschatology, man. Like, I don't believe in that. I believe the Bible, the book of Revelation in particular, Daniel, and all the prophecies.
Believe Jesus is going to return, so I'm asking, most Christians believe there's going to be an Armageddon war, the Antichrist, the third temple. I'm asking, what do you believe?
The eschaton is going to come, but it is not this futurist idea where American politicians partnered with Zionists can just foment these random wars. The wars describe wars that already happened throughout most of history. It's not something that you can just, let's do a war and then the Messiah will come. If your contentions with evangelicals in this country, then I would say you are correct. That is a bad religion. It's basically just foreign policy disguised as a cult. And yeah, I don't follow that. So I agree with you.
So you believe the Antichrist has to rule, though, and Jesus is going to come in a cloud with a sword and in a horse?
Fire.
You believe all that?
Fire and sword. The cloud is when he goes up to heaven. The fire is when he comes down.
I think he's literally like a Marvel movie going to float down from a cloud.
You're the one with Thor all over your Twitter. You're calling me a Marvel movie? Really?
I don't believe in Thor.
Okay, but how is it?
I've always made it clear I'm non-religious, agnostic, and don't believe.
Fine. But how is
Thor
it
is
just
real.
saying something fantastical happened? Which, by the way, is still, I have to say, all the miracles in the Bible are natural phenomenons. They're just larger. Like the splitting of the sea is the physical sea being split.
Bringing people back from dead. You believe the Gospels are literal. You think that the saints rose from their graves after Jesus was crucified. None of the Romans wrote about it, but you believe that happened. That's natural.
How could it be wrong though? Like if you have
nobody
God,
wrote about it, and it's physically impossible.
Dude, it happened in Jerusalem for like one day. Not everybody writes about everything, and
Dude,
we don't have
people rose from their graves and walked around Jerusalem, and no Roman wrote about it anywhere. That is kooky,
yes,
dude.
Just like a lot of other things happened that nobody wrote about. Okay, how come there's no contemporary writings of Plato? He doesn't exist now. He's garbage. He's invisible. He never existed. We base the entire world on Plato.
His students wrote about him. His students wrote.
We
down
have their contemporary writings from his time period. I'm not aware of that.
Largely thanks to the Christians that probably destroyed them or didn't preserve them.
Good,
but
good. Like you do realize the issue
you're psycho. You want to destroy ancient history. Dude, you're like the crazy Christians that want to go knock down all the European statues and think that they're deep. Who told you that they were demons, by the way?
Have you seen a Roman Catholic church? Like they have European style statues all over the place.
I've seen a lot, but you think that pagan gods represent demons?
No, they represent nothing. They're not real. They're fake. They're just fake.
Not, the Bible says that lurking behind, your own Orthodox study Bible says, lurking behind these idols are demons. Paul says, do not make sacrifices to demons.
Yeah, because demons can take advantage of the fact that you build an idol, and then they can take the worship that you are giving to that idol. It doesn't mean that. Yeah, but it doesn't mean Zeus was a real thing and then he turned into a demon. A demon's just taking advantage of the fact that people believed in Zeus. That's all.
Yeah,
you
say that now, but back then they thought they were demons, or at least that they pretended to. But the point is who told you that ancient European gods were demons?
The Bible.
Who were the original anti-pagans that wanted to conquer all the other religions?
Yeah, the xenophobic Jews who actually cared about their nation, unlike the cosmopolitan Romans.
So you just said they're xenophobic and have ambitions for world domination, basically, right? You acknowledge that.
No, the rabbinics today don't have any ambition. They have no ambition whatsoever. You're literally, the one comment's right. You're just basically strawmanning the position here. You're saying anybody who is ever racially Jewish, that means it's a Jewish conspiracy. You do understand that.
Well, hold on.
Yeah,
what?
You're conflating
strawmanning and then do the worst strawman ever.
Dude,
what
you are conflating. Let me explain it. You're conflating the fact that the majority of people who follow Torah Judaism happen to be racial Jews means they're connected to rabbinic Judaism today, who brags about conquering the Gentiles, which they only do because they were persecuted by the Gentiles. They have a persecution.
No, it's because it's true. Look around you. Look at what's happened. It's true. They're not wrong.
Okay. Can I go back
Yahweh,
to the
hold on.
thing?
You acknowledge, hold on. You're saying the rabbis are wrong.
Yeah.
And they're just coping or being sarcastic, but you agree that Yahweh, the God of Israel and Zion, through his Moshiach, did conquer the pagan world and Europe and Edom, which was Rome. You agree
Edom
with
is
all
not
that?
Rome. You're literally
Dude,
taking a
enough of
late
this, bro.
tradition.
They've always said it's Rome.
Who's they? The rabbis from like
Yes, the rabbis,
700
the
years
Talmud.
after the temple's destroyed. 700 years later, they say,
No,
hey,
we
by
don't know
the
that for
way,
sure. It could have been
Rome
right
is
when it was
Edom.
destroyed, or it could have been afterward, or it could have been before also.
It's not before. They don't start calling Rome Edom before the temple's destroyed.
You
In fact,
don't know
they
that.
have no problem with, because the Pharisees
You
have
don't know
no
that.
problem with the Christians or really the Romans until the destruction of the temple. That's when they accuse the Christians of being
Hold
in
on.
collusion with the Romans.
There were some high priests and Sadducees that were working with the Romans, but
Yes,
to
working
say
with,
that
they
they
weren't
didn't have
against.
there were apocalyptic rebels and other sects that were violent. And in fact, in the Talmud, it says that certain zealots burnt the food storage so that to force everybody to go fight because they wanted to fight.
But those are
hold
different
on,
sects.
this is so important, and this segues back to something you said.
Okay.
Because of the Daniel prophecy, and Daniel is a forgery, by the way, well known. The Daniel prophecies, they believed that about that time, mid-first century, that there was supposed to be some type of messianic event. That's why there was so many with messianic ambitions. That's why they were rebelling and trying to usher in some type of an apocalypse.
Okay.
So
how does that prove? The original point was, how does that prove that Rome is Edom? I'm agreeing with you that today, and even maybe 1,000 years ago, rabbinics were saying Rome is Edom, the Romans are bad people, the Greeks suck. Yeah, I agree with all that, but not with what they're saying, but I agree that they said it. But that's a later tradition. That's not the people who wrote the New Testament or even the Old Testament. You're conflating later Jewish tradition, a different religion, with what is the root.
we have it in the Talmud, and the oral law of the Talmud goes back to before it was compiled, some of these traditions. There was
Not
oral
most of
law
them.
before.
Not most of
During
them.
Christianity, was there not an oral law?
Actually, no. There was a
Yes, there
established
was.
canon, dude.
Yes, there was. You don't
Yeah.
think that they had books trying to interpret and doing their commentaries and stuff?
For the most part, no. All this stuff comes about after the Babylonian exile, and then there's 400 years of
Hold on.
silence, and then the New Testament.
If the Talmud saying Edom is Rome, you say that's not accurate. How come the Talmud has all of this information about the destruction of Rome also, if they didn't have these traditions and oral
Dude,
laws
it's written.
before?
All the
before.
Talmud is
This is
compiled
really
and
irrelevant
finalized
whether
400
they
years
believed
later.
it
All right,
before
let's move on then,
Christianity,
fine.
whether they believed it when Constantine happened. Whether
Yes,
they
it is
believed
relevant. What are you
100
talking
AD.
about? You're saying, is Christianity a myth that these evil Israelites concocted? I'm saying they are completely distinct from the people who wrote the New Testament. You're conflating them together. Just because
No,
they
they're
have the
not.
same
No,
race.
Paul. What was Paul? What religion was Paul?
You said he was a Hellenist. I would say he was an actual Jew.
No. He says he's a Pharisee.
Okay. But he rejects the later sect of Pharisees who reject Christ. He was a Pharisee. He knows all the theology, but he's a Christian now. He did not stay with them. They hated him. Most of the people he argues with are the Jews, by the way. That's why he says any race can become a Jew. Come to the synagogue on Sabbath and learn about Moses. That's why he says
it was an inner Jewish squabble.
Okay.
Two factions fighting over who the Messiah is. An exclusively Torah observant nation of priests waiting for their Messiah to do what? Like you already said, conquer Rome and the nations according to the prophecy.
Okay, but
every
you
knee
have
will
failed.
bow.
You
That
have
was
failed
the
to say
goal.
why that's bad. You're just conflating them
you
with the
already
modern day
said-
evil
you already
rabbinics. Dude.
acknowledged that it's bad.
No, I do not acknowledge that the Messiah conquering the world is bad. I acknowledge that rabbinic Judaism is
That's
a
why.
false
That's
religion.
why you're a liability.
not the
That's why.
same.
That's why
Dude,
Christians
it's
are a
not the same
problem.
religion. Okay, what would the world be like without the Christian religion then? Could you give
We
us
don't
maybe
know.
a vision of
We
that?
don't know. We can only guess.
You know, most of the problems
Obviously.
you have, pacifism, weakness, and slavery, and not caring
No,
about the
no.
material life.
We could have a bunch of pagan
Dude,
chads.
that's all
You have no
Platonism.
idea.
Dude, that's all
You have no
Platonism.
idea.
I didn't say ancient paganism. I said Plato and Aristotle. That's all Platonism. This idea that the material life doesn't matter. We should just die and go
They
back
don't
to the
say
one.
life. Come on. Everybody's going to walking around saying life doesn't matter. You think I do that? No.
No,
I
I'm
think
telling
life's-
you that what
you-
you're saying is Christianity is just Platonism. It's not from the Bible. This shit about like, oh, we don't care about our physical life. We just want to go to heaven. The eschaton says we're going to be resurrected physically on this earth. You don't go to heaven forever. That's like total heresy.
Who had the belief of the resurrection of the dead before Christianity? Another exclusively, the whole concept of the Messiah, the whole purpose of the chosen people is to have the Messiah conquer the nations. You agree with that. So debate's really over. You basically
It's not over.
conceded my
You're
whole
saying
point.
that this stuff is bad. It's
You
not
were-
bad. You have not said
It's-
why
it's
it's
not
bad.
bad.
Dude,
It's
you're just
not
saying
bad
it's not
to
bad.
be a willing slave to a worldwide takeover plan.
How is it
by
a worldwide
supremacist chosen
takeover
people
plan?
that wants you to serve them. You don't think that's bad?
Because the religion that spread around the world the most is based on Hellenism, not based on Judaism, dude. All right? Later
Christianity's
stages
not
of
based on
Catholicism.
Judaism? You
No,
think-
it
you
is
think
not.
Christianity
Ask the
didn't
average
emerge out of Judaism.
evangelical.
It was
Ask the
exclusively a
average
Judaism
evangelical.
sect. It
Dude,
was a messianic
I'm not saying
Judaism
that.
sect.
I'm saying they don't follow that religion from the first century, so their plan completely failed. They don't follow that Jewish religion. They don't follow it whatsoever.
Who
They
doesn't?
don't follow the
Who doesn't follow it? What are you talking
90%
about?
of like 80% of Christians, dude, do not follow the religion of the New Testament. They do not.
Okay, I mean, not. It's just like the not a real Christian fallacy. Only you
It's
and the
not.
Christianity that you
No.
believe in has got it right.
It's got
They say
hundreds of
you
millions
don't
of
have it
people,
right.
dude.
They say
That's
you're
got
a
hundreds of
heretic.
millions of people.
What?
You're just literally saying everything that evangelicals and weird Catholic mysticists do is Christianity, and it's wrong. I told
No,
you.
I'm saying there is no real Christianity, but if they're the ones that believe in Christianity and they're the ones that are exerting their influence on the world, it's de facto Christianity. You can be an apologist and say, well, they're not real, but they're still doing real things
No,
in
I'm
the
saying
name of
what
Christianity. So
the
for
bad
all intents
stuff-
and purposes, it
Okay.
is Christianity doing these things.
But the bad stuff that made the Western civilization collapse was not from the Jews, including communism, including many other things, all come from Greek philosophy. So it did not destroy the world, dude.
Oh, it's all the Greeks. Blame the Greeks. That's
No,
funny.
there are many Greeks who are good. I
Mhm.
just say specifically Platonism and Neoplatonism has
Yeah,
had an
that's-
adverse effect on the world.
Yeah,
That is true.
Platonism is what's got all our political leaders enabling the slaughter of Palestinians and the prophetic land takeover.
Dude, that's
of the chosen
futurism. It
people.
was invented by
Let's
a Catholic.
blame Plato for
It
that.
was invented by Catholic Jesuits to disform the Protestant Reformation, and it worked like a charm. It's not real Christianity. I already told
Yeah,
you I don't
and
believe
who
that.
created Christianity for what purpose?
You're conflating like
You-
7 different groups who have totally different worldviews and saying, "Oh, it's one coherent conspiracy," when it's not.
No,
Like the Catholics
enough.
are the ones
enough
who
of
are
that. You
anti-Jewish.
can't- I gotta stop you there. It's one coherent. They're all working together. They meticulously
I say
planned
they're
every
working
detail.
together.
That's not what
but
I say.
You said it's a coherent movement.
You're
and it's
addressing my
Jewish.
actual points.
Okay, your point is this Jewish religion spread around the world. I'm telling you, what most Christians follow is nothing like what is presented in the New Testament.
Is
That's my
Jesus
point.
is Jesus a Jew? Is he the king of the Jews, as it says in the Bible?
Why is that bad?
Is it? Can you answer it?
Yes, of course he's the
Okay.
king of the Jews.
All right.
So he would be their king then. I mean, like he's the Lord of the Gentiles too. I don't know why the Jews have a higher place in this. He's the Lord
Have you
of
read
all
the Old
nations.
Testament?
I have read the Old Testament.
You
and from-
worship a God that says
from
they're
Adam-
above the nations. They're his treasured possession. They're the apple of his eye. They're going to be
except,
ascend
dude,
of fame and
dude.
glory and honor, and they're all going to recognize you and
But they
fear
didn't.
you, it says.
But they didn't. Have you? I already told
They
you.
have, actually. Have you
Prophecy-
seen our politicians?
Dude,
Cursed if you curse them?
prophecy. Let me
Have
answer.
you seen
it.
all the hate speech
Dude,
laws
yeah, I've seen
and
that.
censorship?
Yeah, that's
and
garbage.
blasphemy, essentially,
you
for
do
God's chosen
realize
people?
you do realize the Palestinians are my people, right? Like I'm not ignorant of that stuff.
What are
obviously.
you? You're Palestinian?
I'm Lebanese, but they're Arabs like me. Like this, obviously, I'm aware of the cause. I'm not pro-Israel. The point that I'm trying to
Didn't
make.
say you were.
Okay, but the
You
point I'm
think you're
trying
the
to make,
new Israel, so
No.
you still affirm
in the way you're
concept
saying
of
it.
Israel.
dude. Let me answer now. Now you're not even letting me answer.
Go
Let
ahead.
me answer the question real quick. Number one, there are different branches of Christianity. Futurism is not real Christianity. That's not a Scotsman fallacy. It was invented in the 1800s. It is not the historical faith. Number two, there is no racial hierarchy. Number three, from Adam all the way to Moses, there is no Jewish supremacy, and there really isn't even an identity until Judea. And finally, the fifth thing I want to say, God says you will be X, you will be Y, and then many of them don't come to pass. Just like he says, I will destroy X and Y, and it doesn't come to pass, because the prophecies in the Bible are not oracle soothsaying. It's God giving revelation. And if things change and the Jews do not accept his laws, which Solomon and so many others reject God, and he smashes them for it, they don't get their reward. Just like he says, the Messiah will conquer Rome with the sword. It doesn't happen. Why? Because they reject him. So now they
It
have
says
a
with the
different
rod
form.
of his mouth.
Yeah, they were
Actually-
expecting a physical military leader, though, and they didn't get one.
That's Jesus has to. He didn't finish the job, so he has to have a second coming and fulfill the rest of the prophecies.
No,
and
second
actually
coming
conquer
is
the
not a
world.
cop-out.
Did Jesus conquer Satan when he died on the cross?
Yeah, he conquered death. That is
Then
Christ's
why is
victory.
Satan still in control of the world? Why is there so many satanic
Because
things?
you don't
Why are
have
most,
eternal
most
death,
Christians
dude.
misled?
That's not what it says.
If he
That's not
defeated
what it
Satan,
says.
then why is Satan still in charge? How much more chaos in Satan's reign before Jesus comes down from the clouds and saves us?
You do realize the second coming is not a cop-out at all. Like, I'll give you the verses, but this idea that he defeated death on the cross, therefore there's no more bad things, that is not at all what the theology of the Bible says. It doesn't say
I didn't say
he
it
died
was.
on the cross, therefore Satan is now destroyed. The prophecies in that same book say, yeah, he still exists. He's the God of this world. That's what Paul says.
Yeah, they're just waiting to destroy Satan. They're just waiting until
They're
all the
not waiting,
prophecies are
dude.
fulfilled. It's weird how you criticize futurist Christians, but you believe in a future prophecy. You believe in the second coming.
That's
of
not what
Jesus.
futurism is, dude.
I know. I'm just saying. It's still you believe in a future prophecy, and you believe the
some
Antichrist
of the
has to reign.
prophecies are
So you
future.
want the Antichrist. The Antichrist ruling the world is part of God's plan. That's what
Not
you
up
believe.
to me. Yeah, not up to me.
Yeah,
It's God's plan.
It's
not up
God's
to me.
divine plan. It has to happen.
You do realize that
Right?
you're arguing you don't understand eschatology here.
No,
just because I
understand-
believe
no.
things
You
will
don't
happen
understand.
in
You
the
don't understand.
future.
I understand it.
You don't.
I
Adam,
understand all
you
of
got to
this.
let Jeem respond.
Okay.
You got to let Jeem talk.
All right, let's slow down a second here. All forms of revelation or eschatology believe at least a couple things will be in the future. When I say I'm not a futurist, it doesn't mean nothing's ever going to happen in the future. It means that interpreting all these events like Gog and Magog and all this other stuff, oh, it's Russia, it's Ukraine, it has nothing to do with that. That's futurism. The only thing that's left for us is really the second coming. So these are different ideas of eschatology.
That's not biblical, though. Matthew
What's not
says
biblical?
there's going to be major wars and rumors of wars.
Dude, they already
says there's
happened.
going to be plagues
The
and
temple was
famines and the
destroyed.
birth pangs of the Moshiach.
Dude,
Matthew
the temple was
24
destroyed.
says-
That's it.
Matthew says the birth pangs of the Moshiach before the end is just like the rabbis say, the birth pangs of the Moshiach.
Really. Let me read out the
You
verses.
do
then.
believe you
Let me read
believe
out
the
the verses.
Antichrist has to rule, and that's part of God's plan. And
Not
most
my plan.
Christians think that the Antichrist is going to be who they say is the Messiah. So, in order for Christian prophecies to be fulfilled, they have to fulfill their Judeo.
No, they don't
prophecies.
have to fulfill
That's why
anything. It
Christians
is
are
all in
enabling
God's
them.
hands. Dude, it's all in God's hands. The Jews have literally no place in it. They
Trust
have
the
no place
plan.
in the Antichrist. Let me give the scripture for you. You keep quoting scripture. Mark 14:62. Jesus says, "You will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power, coming with the clouds of heaven." He says right hand of power there. All right? In other parts, he talks about Luke 21:6, these things which you see, the days will come in which not one stone will be left. And then a few verses later, 21:32 of Luke's gospel, "Assuredly I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all these things take place." He's talking about the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. This birth pangs and stuff is all from that time period. That has already been fulfilled.
Titus is the son of man? That's what you're saying?
How is Titus the Son of Man? It says Jesus will be sitting at the right hand of power, coming with the clouds of heaven. He's talking about Daniel chapter 7. He goes up to
When
the
did
Father.
Jesus come in the clouds of power?
He's going up to the Father. Read Daniel 7. He says,
No, it
I
says
saw
he's
one
coming
like the
down
Son
from
of
the clouds.
Man.
I've read Daniel 7.
Read it.
I started by showing Daniel
Really?
7, or I
You
didn't
started?
show it.
Where does he say that Jesus goes to? It says that the Son of Man goes to the Father. I'm going to read it. I was watching the night visions. Behold, one like the Son of Man, coming with the clouds of heaven, same language Jesus just used. He came to the Ancient of Days. That's the Father there in heaven. He's not going to the earth in that parable. Not going to the earth in that passage. You are confusing these weird types of eschatology. He comes back with fire, not with a cloud. Misinterpretation. Anyway, what other subject do you want to cover? We want to sit around on eschatology.
This is interpreted, though,
By some people who
as
are
a
wrong. I
Messiah
agree
coming
with
to conquer their enemies.
you.
And you do think, you
that's
just
interpreted
acknowledge,
by
you just
rabbis,
said,
dude.
if this is prophecy that Jesus was ascending to heaven as the Son of Man to be in the presence of the Ancient of Days or God, then you just said Jesus is going to come down in the end times in a cloud. So
Right,
it's
but
been
those
fulfilled, but it's
verses
going to
you
be
just
fulfilled
said-
again the opposite way.
No, the verses you just said about the war and the rumors of war, that was fulfilled because he said these things will not take place until this age, or this age will
But it
not
said
go
that,
away.
was,
till
that
these
was the
things
end,
come.
though.
No,
We're
no,
not in
he's
the
talking
end.
about the siege
We've
of
had another
Jerusalem.
2,000 years.
No,
How
that's the
much
siege of
more
Jerusalem,
chaos
dude.
before Jesus is going to float down from the clouds and save us?
Dude, what chaos? Where does the Bible? Okay, your idea of this God is all
Do you know
loving,
what birth pangs
only
of the
loving.
Moshiach imply?
Dude, that is
Chaos
in
on the world.
first century. That was already the destruction of Jerusalem. It says that's why you should pray that it's not a Sabbath when all this stuff comes to pass. He's talking about Jerusalem. The second coming is a different topic. He's not only talking about the second coming in the Gospels. I already answered that. Now the point is, conflating that with what the rabbis want to do has nothing to do with anything. I already showed you I have a different eschatological point of view. Let me ask you something now. You've been asking like 90% of the questions. Where do you derive your morality from to say it's bad that the Hebrews do this, it's bad that the one God rules over the whole world? Why is it bad if bad stuff happens to other people? Like, where do you get that knowledge from?
From logic and the effect that it has on the world.
Okay.
And now as soon as you get the mic, you want to go to the transcendental, and you're gonna
No. This is not a tag question.
And say you can't have morals, you can't have objective truth unless you acknowledge my God, that they come from my God.
No, I'm not. They don't come from my God. I completely disagree with that.
I explained to you the problems that I have with Judaism and Christianity. I talk about it all the time.
You didn't answer. You're not answering the question. Let's go back to where you get your beliefs from. I'm not going to do tag on you.
I said logic, the effect that it has on the world.
Okay. Where did the logic come from though? Like how do you know your logic is the same as some communist in central China? Like what if you guys have different logic?
It comes from society, people in society thinking about the issues.
But what if
that's
they're
where
wrong?
You're asking, the logic has to come from a transcendental God too. Is this like the only argument you guys ever have?
Dude,
it's
you
circular.
Are strawmanning me. I'm not tag. I'm not doing tag. I'm literally not doing tag.
It feels a lot like it.
No, I'm actually.
Where do your objective morals come from? That's tag, dude. Come on.
No, I'm actually just going to tell you that your morals come from Plato and Aristotle, and that they're just as baseless as mine are for believing. I can't believe in a 2,000-year-old Jew, but you guys can believe in a 2,000-year-old Greek. That's the argument. It has nothing to do with tag or universal concepts.
I don't believe that an ancient Greek. I believe they were just philosophers and thinkers, not that they were walking on water and resurrecting people and the son of the God of Zion.
So Plato and Aristotle happen to be correct about everything. They just happen to be correct.
Did you guys hear me say that, or is that just another?
You said you have logic.
Words in my mouth.
No, you said you had logic. Okay, fine. Let's say you don't say they come from Plato. I'm saying you may not realize it, but they do. So how can that be that is okay for you to do?
No, I know, right? Your guys' best supposed evidence for God wasn't even created by Christians. It wasn't in the Bible. It comes from pagan philosophers. I know.
Disagree. No, I'm not. I'm literally not using
aspects of it.
Arguments.
Certainly do.
No, totally disagree with that. I don't use any of those arguments on my channel whatsoever. Like I know you debated David Patrick Harry and he did all that tag stuff. I'm not using that stuff because I know
filibustered the whole time doing that.
Be that as it may, I haven't seen the whole thing, but the point is I'm not doing precept here. I'm saying that God actually disagrees with this idea that universal morality is just existing somewhere in the universe. Like in Romans chapter 9, he basically says,
do you think it exists in the Bible?
No, it's not universal. It's based on God's subjective decree. How's that universal?
How do you know what God says?
God says it in the Bible. It's not universal.
Yeah, that's why your morality comes from the Bible.
Yes, and the Bible describes the reality.
For all of the latest prophets, what were they classified as? You believe that they speak for God, and that makes them God. That
they also get punished by God.
Elevated divine status, and you wonder why, like the position of the world that we're in today, with everything in the news. And the Zio influence.
The Zio influence, so everything has to do with Zionism. So this stuff didn't exist
everything?
before
Are you denying that there's
Dude, you said Zio influence.
And censorship and ADL?
Yeah,
and
I don't deny
you're
that.
You're denying that.
No, I don't deny that. I said, yes, you're right. There's Zio influence. However, that doesn't mean they rule the entire world.
I didn't say that. That's another straw man again. I didn't say that.
Then what do they
religiously, their God has conquered the minds of over half the planet.
Okay. The point I'm making, though, is that you're saying that because of Zio influence here in America, it's not in most of the rest of the world, though. Christians in Russia don't go. So Christians in Russia say we have to bless the nation of Israel. Really?
No, I'm not saying Russia, but South America, lots of Christian communities, Philippines, all over the world. All of the developing world where Christianity is actually growing. They're all Zionists. The vast majority of Christians around the world are pro-Israel. They're their greatest supporters.
Okay, so just because the majority do something does not mean that is the root. And I've already proven to you that their ideas of futurism.
Not real. You're denying what the majority's doing.
No, I'm saying the majority that you're talking about come from the 1800s.
You're making excuses for the fruits of Christianity.
How is that the historic religion? If it comes from the 1800s futurism, how is that the historic religion?
It led to us here.
Okay, great. It led to us
Zionism. I've seen Christian Zionist quotes going back to the 1500s at least.
Can you give one maybe so we can analyze it? Like, what is the quote?
There's a whole chapter of them in the book "When a Jew Rules the World" by Joel Richardson.
Oh, okay. So what is? Okay, you don't have to quote it word for word, but what's the general idea? Like, what are they saying?
That in order for Jesus to return, they have to have a restoration of the Holy Land.
Yeah, that's fake, though. I'm saying that's heretical belief. It's not the real belief.
It's so fake, but somehow God's divine scripture was so easily hijacked and twisted to convince and persuade so many people of this.
Yeah, the New
Sounds
Testament
like a pretty
literally
flawed
says,
religion. You
the
think
New
in the end
Testament
times the
literally
church is
predicts
supposed
that,
to the church is supposed to have a falling away and follow false prophets, and like it says in Revelation, Christians will be beheaded for the testimony of Jesus.
No, that happened in the 1st and 2nd century, man. That's not a future prophecy.
I get your preterist.
I'm
stuff.
not a preterist. I said I'm a historicist, by the way.
Hold on.
So
Who is the Antichrist gonna? What is he gonna do to the Christians before Jesus returns? Then
he's going to take the place and say that he's essentially speaking for God as God in God's temple.
And is he going to persecute the church, the true believers?
It's not the temple of Jerusalem. Yeah.
He's not going to persecute the true believers?
No, he will persecute true believers. That's true.
Okay. All right.
What's wrong with that? What does this even have to do with what we were originally talking about?
You think that's God's plan to be persecuted?
In the 1800s.
You think it's God's plan to be persecuted in the end, and then just trust the plan? You're going to win. That's why Christianity is hugely problematic. It's
not, because it's based on evangelical
defeat. You
and
think
Catholic
defeat is
pacifism. Then why do all the church fathers and also many of the saints in the Orthodox Church say that you're not supposed to love God's enemies at all? Like, there isn't this just lay back and die attitude.
No, you're supposed to destroy their enemies of the God of Israel.
Yes, but then you just said that we're going to pacifistically die. You just said we're going to pacifistically die. How can
they couldn't do it themselves. They created a religion that worships their God and Messiah that spread the Torah around the world and was like a famous historian said of the Judeo background. He said that Christianity is the conquering arm of Judaism, and there's a plethora of quotes from people from all sides of the aisle acknowledging this.
Really, they're acknowledging it. But again, throughout most of history, they did not see Christianity like that. Maimonides is not some ancient philosopher. He's from like the 1300s, as is the Kabbalah. That's not historic Judaism. All this stuff is made up throughout the centuries. You can't say this is what they believed in the first century. Yeah, but that's 1,000 years after the New Testament, man. That's a very long time. That's not the traditional belief. It was invented out of
in a time when there wasn't Christian Zionist, there wasn't the state of Israel. He still acknowledged, because it's obvious, that Christianity was a stepping stone preparing the world for the Messianic age to get them believing in the laws of Moses, to wean them off
their pagan idol worship. But they didn't say that. They didn't say that in the first century.
He was
said
right.
that
He's been
1,300 years after the New Testament has been written.
I'm not even positive he was the first to say it, though.
But you realize Maimonides already saw that the religion already spread.
It's very likely that they've always recognized that because it's always been true.
Okay, that's just appealing to a gap in knowledge. I mean, you're just saying it's likely, so I don't see the evidence for that.
Yeah, there could have been plenty of Jews. Look at it in Christianity. The whole objective of the early Christians was to what? Baptize all the nations. The Great Commission. Go to the nations. Go convert them all. Get them all of every tongue to worship the God of Israel. That was the whole takeover conspiracy.
Yeah, but the problem, again, is that you think everything that people believe in today, like Zionist Christians, futurists, and other people, is what they thought they were doing in the first century. And it's the polar opposite. I've already proven that. They did not believe the stuff that Christians believe now, or what Maimonides was talking about. He existed at a time when Christianity already spread throughout the known world. Of course, he's going to say, oh, the Christian religion is going to spread. It already spread. He was already there. Like, he didn't have to predict that. It already happened. It was right in front of his face.
Yeah, he was commenting on what had happened, exactly. And it was 1,000 years ago when there wasn't, like I said, a state of Israel, yet he still realized that this was God's divine plan, is how they interpret it. And
but Maimonides
you don't know that first century they weren't thinking the exact same thing. I can guarantee you they were. Because
they
it's
were
obvious.
not thinking Zionism. They were not thinking that the Messiah was actually going to restore the land of Israel. They thought every single
they wanted to.
They didn't care about it anymore. That was only in the Sinai covenant. It has no relevance in the new covenant, man.
Since their temple was destroyed, they've wanted to rebuild the temple.
No, the rabbinics who rejected Jesus
Christianity started, they've wanted Jesus to return.
No, those two things are not related. They don't want, people who believe in the New Testament do not want to rebuild the temple. We don't care about the land of Israel. Totally irrelevant. Totally irrelevant. Oh, yet you brought up the Zionist Christians.
Except there's enough text there that they could so easily convince them that there does need to be another temple.
That's not an argument, though. Like, you can confuse people with Scripture, therefore it was evil from the beginning. Like, yeah, people are going to misread Scripture intentionally when they have intentionally bad theology.
Yeah, it's so easy to corrupt these divine scriptures and lead them astray.
What do you mean by divine Scripture? What do you mean divine Scripture? What does that mean?
Christians believe that Scripture is inspired by God,
Inspired.
and it's held as holy. It's called the Holy Bible.
Okay, that doesn't mean it has an
Holy implies
ontological.
divine, you know.
Dude, it does not mean it's an ontological God. It just means it's inspired by God.
Didn't say, oh, okay.
You're saying it's holy like that.
It's
means, gonna
inspired
grow
by God,
wings.
but it's not actually God. But
No,
but
it's written
whatever
by
the
men.
Bible says, the Lord said this, God said that. That's all true. You believe that?
No, we believe the Bible's true, but you're saying it has to be 100% perfect in your own mind.
You don't
It's not.
think it's
we don't believe it
perfect?
fell out of. I believe
don't
it
think
is.
it's perfect?
You don't believe it's perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect in your mind. It didn't fall out of heaven. It was written over many centuries by many different
Well,
men.
the Torah, you believe the Torah was dictated to Moses by God or his angels, right?
Yeah, but Moses wrote it down.
But okay. Well, I
He's
just
a
owned you
human
on your own
being.
point.
No,
then.
you didn't. He's
Yes,
a
I
human
did.
being who wrote it in human vernacular. God didn't write the Torah. I already told you that. God did
Okay,
not
so
write
I
it
guess
for him.
I guess Moses. I wonder what Moses didn't translate right. What he didn't
No,
write
everything's
down
right.
right.
I'm not arguing against the Bible. I'm just letting you know when you say
You're
it's
getting owned on
divine.
every point.
Dude, I'm not getting owned. You
Let's
literally said the
see.
Bible's divine. I'm correcting your vernacular. It's not. Doesn't have a divine existence within itself. It's just inspired by God. We don't believe
Okay,
it fell out
inspired
of the
by
sky.
God, but so easily used to subvert.
You do know the
and,
New Testament.
and help usher in the Antichrist. Great.
You know the New
plan.
Testament literally says. Paul says there are sheep's coming or wolves coming, dressed as
Right,
sheep who
yeah.
will misguide the flock. Yeah, he knew that would happen.
So it's
That's not
prophecy
unintentional.
that you're gonna fail. It's prophecy
No,
that
it's
you're
prophecy
gonna.
that there will be a falling away.
Right.
Some people will be bad.
We're
some
gonna
will
lose,
stay in the faith.
and the Antichrist
say
is gonna
lose.
reign, but then Jesus is gonna come in the cloud and save.
It doesn't
us. That's
say
the
it doesn't say
Christian
lose.
mindset.
It says they're going to baptize all the nations, but there will be danger, such as false groups present. Doesn't mean we lost, it's over. Let's just sit back and wait. That's again a very American evangelical idea. It is not historic Christianity.
Yeah, but it's Christianity now. The last 200 years, it's
In
led us
this
to
country.
this point.
Dude,
It's
that's
led
not
us
the
to this
denomination
point.
I follow.
It's led us
I
to
already
this
told
point, and
you
that's
it's
what
a
it is
fake
now. And they're
religion.
the ones with the power and the influence.
No, you're acting like all Christians are bound to each other. So if evangelicals do something that affects Catholics and Orthodox, it doesn't. They're different religions. They may as well be. They just call themselves Christianity. They're completely
No,
different
they've
religions.
got a lot more in common than they have different. And what
Such as what?
percentage of Orthodox are there in America
Like
compared
2%,
to evangelicals?
Like 2%.
Yeah, like nothing. But
Yeah, that's the
you've
point.
got it right, and you're just making excuses for what they're doing.
No, I'm
And
not.
Instead
I'm
of
saying
addressing
they're
the
the
root
wrong
issue,
group.
that the fact that they believe in the covenant and in the Hebrew scriptures and the God of Israel, that's the root issue. But you won't condemn the town.
Dude, I've
the
said
Torah.
already that the Hebrew scriptures are not the problem, and the problem in the modern world is an overindulgence in ancient philosophy, not an overindulgence in
The
Judaism.
Hebrew scriptures are not a problem, is what
No,
you said.
let's get to the scripture then. You just mentioned them. What's wrong with the Hebrew scriptures in particular? The Old
Okay,
Testament, maybe.
let's go to Isaiah 60 and 61.
Okay. And then actually, I saw in the private chat they were discussing. I mean, do you guys want us to keep going, or do you want to do the live?
This
chats?
has been pretty good, Jeem. I gotta say, just like the back and forth and the intensity.
Yeah, I'm
far as
glad
the
you
guys-
guys.
If you guys feel like you can keep going, we can keep going for a little bit longer.
Just let us know, like if there's 10 minutes left. Just give us a little heads up.
We'll do.
Cool.
Isaiah 60, the forces of the Gentiles will come to thee. Strangers shall build up your walls. For nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Yes, those nations shall be utterly wasted.
Why is that bad?
Zion, the Holy One, in Israel, thou shalt suck the milk of the Gentiles and shalt suck the breast of kings, and thou shalt know that I am thy Lord, Savior and Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. So suck the milk of the Gentiles. It also says that they will lend to many nations but not borrow, and reign over the nations. Isaiah 45, all the nations will bow down and worship thee. Isaiah 49 and 42, where it has light into the nations, also same themes. Isaiah 61, and then I'll get your take on
Go ahead.
get your response to some of these. This is the Hebrew scriptures that you're signing off on.
Okay.
61:9. And their seed shall be known among the Gentiles, and their offspring among the people. All that see them shall acknowledge them, that they are the seed which the Lord hath blessed. And it talks about the offspring of everybody, not just Jesus, like the New Testament tries to say. Isaiah 61, but you shall be named the priests of our Lord. Men shall call you the ministers of our God. Ye shall eat the riches of the Gentiles, and in their glory shall ye boast yourselves. You have no problem with that. Christians won't condemn this. They think it's good. They try to insert themselves into it.
Let me know when you're done. Do you have
done.
another citation? Okay. So first of all, again, this is not a tag argument. I'm genuinely curious, but you finish the whole thing and then you can answer it. Why any of that stuff is bad? Number two, the Gentiles, when the Bible's talking about it, you're implying it means Greeks and Romans, this kind of Eurocentric view. It doesn't. Most of the Gentiles, when God tells Moses, go eradicate that village down to the last man and woman, do whatever you want with the young women, those are fellow Semites and Hamitic groups. Like they're basically like modern day Saudis and Jordanians. It says nothing about go and curse the Greeks. The Greeks are no worse than those Gentiles at that time. It's not like they have an elevated state where Europeans are bad. There also wasn't even a concept before Christendom of we are a united Europe that's different from the rest of the world. I mean, in the Roman Empire, a Berber from Libya was just as Roman as somebody from southern Germany. I mean, I
never
don't
said
understand.
there was a united Europe.
Okay, so why is it bad?
Another straw man.
I don't think that's a straw man, considering you're making this whole thing about they conquered Europe in particular and then the rest of the world. I mean, obviously,
did
Europe
Jesus
is what
not
became
conquer
Christian.
Europe? Is he not ruling in the land of their enemies? Or
Actually, not really. I mean,
You already
most of
acknowledged
Europe's
that.
atheists
Jesus,
at this point.
Christianity
so,
hasn't dominated Western culture for the last 1,700 years.
not in the West. Not for the last
Come
1,700
on.
years.
Come
Not in the West.
on.
Sorry,
You're
it's
just
not.
you're
Dude,
denying
it's
reality
Aristotle.
what everybody
It's
knows.
Aristotle and Plato.
Has there been Aristotle?
It
No,
is.
It's been the,
Okay,
the,
so
the
so
birth
what do the Catholics
and
believe?
the birth and the scapegoat
Catholics
atonement
believe?
of the Torah Messiah.
They
in the
didn't
Mashiach.
believe that. They believed in Christus Victor. I already told you that. For 1,000 years, they didn't even believe in satisfactory atonement. They didn't care about blood atonement. They just believed that Christ
They
defeated
just drink
death
the
and
blood and
announced
say the blood cleanses us, and there's no repentance without blood. But okay, I don't even know how you
They
can say
do
that.
the Eucharist
See,
based on
hold
early
on.
tradition. They don't believe Christ was a satisfactory atonement for the first 1,000 years. That's
Yeah,
the
they
universal
believe there
church.
was different atonement theories. Nonetheless, the scriptures speak for themselves. It is blood magic. The blood heals. It's based on Yom
It's
Kippur,
not-
the
it's
sprinkling
not
of the blood of the scapegoat.
though.
Yeah, it is. Everybody knows it. Your point,
Everybody
though,
knows it, that's their
hold on. Your response to Isaiah 61. Oh, what's wrong with this? Nations actually, nations was interpreted for at least 600 years before Christianity. There was ancient Judaists reading verses like Isaiah 60 and 61, and the nations meant the non-Judeo world. That's what it meant. They will.
Okay.
Did he say something?
No, I dropped an outlet. Go ahead.
I thought I heard the other guy talk. So it says we will feed off the wealth of the nations. It's talking about feeding off the wealth of the world. It says in the
Again,
end,
I'm
Zechariah,
telling you,
all the
dude,
nations
just
will grab
because
onto their
they're against-
tassel
Yeah,
and,
I get
and
it.
say
But
God
you're
is
just
with
saying
you.
that, it's Gentiles, the Jews are against the Gentiles, therefore that makes a religion wrong. No, if it's God's prerogative that his religion should be the one over the world and he enforces that morality into the created order,
Yeah.
that's what we have to do. My question for you is,
If God
you
wants
think
to
God is
conquer
evil-
the Gentiles,
Yeah.
then that's what we have to do.
Okay, I'm going to quote
You're an
Romans 9
apolo-
to you.
hold on.
Dude,
You're
let
an-
me answer. I'm going to quote Romans 9. Even if God were evil according to you, what on earth are you going to do about it? Like, just too bad. Like, okay, you think he's evil. Like, if he is real and he is evil, what are you going to do about it?
He's not
Romans
real,
9.
and I'm trying to wake people up to not be scared of this God that wants to theologically enslave the world. You're an apologist, like all Christians. You're an apologist for the supremacy in the Torah. You're saying there's no supremacy there. You're making
Not racial
excuses for these
supremacy, no.
prophecies that are
Anybody
clearly about
who
conquering the
becomes-
nations of the
anybody who
world.
becomes
This is why
part of the
Christianity
Sinai
is
covenant-
limited,
You guys
controlled
can't both
opposition.
be talking.
All right, I'll let Adam finish and then I'll go.
This is why Christianity is a limited hangout, controlled opposition when you won't even condemn the Torah. You'll condemn the Talmud, but not all the supremacy, the end times prophecies, the anti-Gentile sentiments. These are all rooted in the Torah, not the Talmud.
Okay.
But you guys won't condemn
me
it. That's
answer
why
that now.
it's controlled opposition.
Really? So I would actually say the Jewish conspiracies controlled opposition from the First American Catholic Missionary Congress, Bishop Francis Clement Kelly, page 17, 1909, and now the centenary year of great flourishing bishoprics, this year of stately pageants and imposing manifestations of vigorous Catholic life and activity, this year of our transition from the status of a missionary country under the supervision of the Sacred Congregation of Propaganda to all rights, privileges, advantages, and duties of a Catholic country immediately under the care and solitude of the Holy See. I would say that it is, first of all, the Catholic Church has way more influence in this country than the mysterious Jews do. And second of all, the Jewish conspiracy is a total misdirection. Like, all these guys who wrote books about what the one world order would be, H.G. Wells and more recently Jacques Attali, they said it's going to be a one world government where people are permanently nomadic. But you said in a previous video you did a while ago that the Jews want to create a 70-nation tribunal. That's the opposite of a one world government where there are no nations.
They want to have a 70-nation Sanhedrin. I said, I think you misunderstood me. They believe that the 70 nations represents the non-Judeo world.
Right.
Not that they're
How
going to
can
have
they have
70
nations?
nations in the end times, though.
No, it's not about end times. How can they have 70 nations if all the people who actually believe in this new world order, like Jacques Attali, say we're going to have 0 nations and people are just going to be permanently nomadic? It's like the total opposite.
I've never said there's going to be 70 distinct nations. I'm not sure why you're saying that.
But you're saying there will be some kind of nations, especially the nation of Israel.
No,
so the
no,
Jews are not
I
going to have a nation at all?
I say the nations are going to do Gog and Magog and have war with one another and then mutually destroy each other. And then there will be a new Judeo-Messianic age.
But you do realize that, okay, but you do realize
it's like they say that there's
Gog
70
and
root
Magog.
nations, but that this spread to like, because there's way more than 70 distinct nations and people. So
no, it might be symbolic, but the point I'm making is that this idea that the Jews are just going to take over and they're going to have their heart in Jerusalem and everybody's supposed to do Zionism is the exact opposite of what Jacques Attali, who trained prime ministers, said he wants for the world.
Attali? Because what
prime
you just
ministers,
described is what the rabbis want. It is what they want in Judaism.
They want 0 nations, not even Israel. They want
No, I
nothing.
haven't said they want 0 nations. They want,
but these guys
the
do.
other
They want
nations
0
that are
nations.
Noahides that flock to Zion and the
Dude, I already said
the law
Noahide
comes
is not
forth
a
from
biblical
Zion,
concept.
and the altar and the incense and the gifts come to Zion is what they believe from
Okay,
the
Noahide
nations.
and Shabbos Goy are not biblical concepts. They're invented by rabbinics. There's no such thing as we're doing the Noahides, but the Jews have to do 613 laws.
The
There's not two
concept of
covenants at the
B'nai
same
Noah
time. Yeah.
is in the Talmud and was probably in the oral law, at least the time
Talmud.
of Christianity. That list in Acts 15, your buddy Jay Dyer says that's the Noahidic covenant that Paul was getting the Gentiles to follow. So
But it's not the Noahide laws, dude. He's just saying that it's a reflection of what Noah
derived
did.
the 7 laws from Genesis.
Okay,
in
let
the
me ask
Noah
you a
story.
question. Does Jesus, Paul, or anybody else ever comment on bestiality in the New Testament? Serious question.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. They don't. They also don't define what sexual immorality is. There's actually a lot of things they don't talk about because they assume that you're going to read the rest of the Old Testament and learn that morality, not just a couple Noahide laws.
But I
total
thought
fake
Christians
religion.
weren't supposed to follow the mitzvahs and the commandments of the Old Testament.
You're supposed
That
to
doesn't even
follow.
make sense.
The Orthodox Church says that all the morality of the Old Testament is still binding. When Jesus replaces or abrogates something, he's usually going to a pre-Mosaic ordinance, such as when he relaxes the Sabbath or when he makes divorce more strict. He never says, yeah, the whole law is gone, just throw it in the trash, now you have Noahide stuff. That's not found in the New Testament.
Except in Acts, where it is a Noahide-like list that everybody agrees.
Then why does James say? Okay, why does James say at the end you got to go learn the rest of Moses first? When you're done with these few laws, go learn the rest.
They don't want the Gentiles to follow all the laws of Moses.
No, the rabbinics don't. I'm telling you, they're not the same as the people who
No.
wrote the New Testament.
They don't want converts. They wanted the Gentiles to follow the God of Israel, but not convert to Judaism. That's why they don't celebrate the
that's
Sabbath.
why-
It's on Sunday. That's why they don't keep circumcise and keep kosher. It was supposed
Not true.
to be.
That's
Yes.
not true.
Yes,
No,
it
it's
is.
not. In the Eastern tradition, they kept the hygiene rituals of the Old Testament were still seen as a good influence on society. But because the covenant's different, doing those has nothing to do with your salvation. So, for example, in the Russian Orthodox Church, a woman shouldn't go into a holy place when she's on her monthly period. That's based on Moses. So now Moses is in the garbage, but we're appealing to him at the same time. The Eastern Church did not get rid of literally everything that the Western
I
churches
wouldn't
did.
expect them to get rid of everything.
You just said that the law is gone and
No,
we do Noahide laws.
That's what they said. The commandments isn't for the Gentiles to follow all the commandments, just the laws of Noah. And they did think this even before Christianity. All the first century sages were still talking about Noah.
Yeah, because they would go on to found the Pharisee school, which was an upstart religion purchased from aristocracy during the Greek invasions. It's not the historic Judaism, which you said is not the
you
historic
admitted earlier
Judaism.
that there was God-fearers, which meant Christians that were interested in Judaism and believed in the God of Judaism, and they were suggesting Noahide laws for them.
No, they weren't.
Full conversion.
They said go and learn the rest of Moses and keep it for moral purposes. That's why when Christians in the East have to justify something, if it's not explicitly in the New Testament, we refer to the Old. The Old Testament is not
If you
gone.
agree with the Acts story, which I think is doctored and harmonized and not historical, it was the nations didn't need to keep the laws.
I just told you Acts 15:21. After he's done with that sentence, he says, "For you will go to the synagogue and learn the rest of Moses." You don't have a different religion where you do Noahide and
Learn
the Jews
Moses
get to do...
could just mean learn the Old Testament. Learn the law.
Moses was not called.
Learn the prophets in the Old Testament.
Then he would have said the prophets, but he said Moses. That one particular covenant. That's
So
the
they
law
know
portion.
Torah. They know Torah then.
Okay, but
You can't
the rabbis
argue that
say,
Paul said that the Gentiles need to follow. And this is so off the path of the topic of the debate, but
Fine.
you can't argue that Paul was saying that the Gentiles needed to follow the commandments.
no, not for salvation. He says Christ is the end of the law for righteousness, not the end of the law permanently. There's a difference there.
Okay.
Let me finish one last thing, then we'll move on because you said you didn't want to discuss this topic.
I haven't seen, like, we're debating if Christianity is a myth, and I haven't heard any proof that the Gospels are reliable. You haven't explained Paul not knowing
Yes, I have.
Jesus, the earliest
Okay,
layer.
all
No,
right,
you
let's
haven't.
go to
The
Paul.
earliest layers
Let's
of
go
the
to Paul then.
Gospels. I've got
What's your issue with Paul?
that he never knew Jesus, and he said explicitly to have influence in the Christian communities and have the authority of being the apostle. He said that he learned about Jesus from the scriptures and his ascension mystical experiences. Like he says, he was caught up into the third heaven and to paradise and learned the mysteries. This is clearly explaining Merkava mysticism, ascension type of dreams, and then connecting scriptures. He's saying he's
Paul does
learning
not
about
believe
Jesus
in that.
in the scriptures, meaning they were searching the scriptures to learn about their redemption in the Messiah.
Right, but
This
Jesus
is how
says the
Christianity
same thing
started.
in Luke 24. They don't appeal to a mystical revelation that you can't get through what happens on earth. He says he hears the voice of Jesus in the Hebrew tongue, and then in the book of Acts, he goes
And then
around
wrote it
meeting
in-
the other disciples.
And then
He didn't write the
translated it
book of
into
Acts.
Greek.
No, because his Greek was not nearly as good as Luke's or any of the other people who were actually fluent. Paul was not 100% fluent in Greek. That's why he did not author the Greek copy of the letter to the Hebrews. He wrote it probably originally in
He's
Hebrew.
well
or
learned
rated
and
it.
advanced in Greek,
No, but
and
his writings
familiar
don't
with
match
Greek
the
Hellenistic
of Luke, dude.
thought.
All the
You're saying
scholars,
Paul
the
wasn't good at
atheist
Greek?
scholars that you just mentioned, all the atheist scholars you mentioned earlier, all attest that the letter to the Hebrews was not written by Paul's hand. He had a scribe.
I
write
don't
it.
think
The
it
Greek
was.
is too
I don't
good.
think it was.
Yeah, because he wasn't that good at Greek. And in the book of Acts, let me finish this point. A guard walks up to him. He's supposedly a master of Greek who looks like a Greek. He asks, "Do you know Greek?" And Paul says, "Yes, I do." He says, "Okay, go talk to your fellow Jew people." He does, but in Hebrew. He prefers to speak to his people in Hebrew, not in Greek. He's not 100% fluent in it. That's pretty aware in the New Testament. So my point is that if you're asking about Paul, he's not this Greek sage. It's not even his first language. Like, I don't understand what the issue with Paul is. His theology is the same as the rest of the New Testament.
The issue is that the earliest text of the New Testament is written by a guy that never knew Jesus. And
No,
he
that's
said
the
he
earliest
didn't
found
learn him
manuscript.
about him from any man. He denies, I did not learn about the gospel of Jesus from any man, but from the scriptures. The scriptures are the source of what they learned about Jesus. In Hebrews, it says, and then Jesus said, and it just cites Old Testament. There's no historical Jesus walking around healing people.
But he
speaking
claims
in
that he
parables.
heard his
There's nothing
voice
about
on the road.
none of the biographical details are in Paul's epistles
Doesn't have to
or
be.
Hebrews or the earliest layers of the New Testament.
All of his epistles are correcting other churches. He doesn't have to mention. You're filling in
No,
the story.
He writes thousands and thousands of words, and completely, it's a blatant silence of admitting any type
No,
of
it's not.
teachings or parables
That's
or
theology
virgin
of the gaps,
birth
dude.
or
Theology
Judas's
of the gaps.
betrayal. All of it. It's none of it's there. It's an
Okay, that's
alarming
all-
silence.
Dude, you're just filling gaps of knowledge. Silence doesn't mean we get to fill it with our own conspiracy. That's abductive reasoning.
It's not a conspiracy. It's a fact that he doesn't talk about a earthly preacher walking around Jerusalem.
Why does he
doesn't
have
do
to
it.
say,
It's not
hey,
there.
by the way, this guy
It's
we're all
absent.
following, he lived on earth. Like, he has to say that. No one says Paul lived on earth when they're writing about Paul. I mean, just because he doesn't mention that, suddenly that means, oh, he believes in like a divine angel.
He doesn't say lived on earth. He doesn't place in Jesus on earth at any time. And in fact,
Doesn't matter.
in the Greek where it says that Jesus was supposedly born, it's actually a Greek word for manufactured. And that didn't fit. The early scribes and Christians didn't like that, so they changed the
What
word in
verse is
some
that?
manuscripts.
Okay, what verse is that? Is that in Paul or you're saying the gospel?
It's when it says, I think it's perdidomy is the word, and it's when he says in his letters that Jesus was born of the seed of David, I think it is.
Oh, so that's Paul speaking, but that does match with the Gospel of John, which says in John 1:14, St. Athanasius agrees, he agenetos flesh, so he became. It's not about being, the born part's not as important as the fact that he was divine and became man. Like, it doesn't matter if they use the word born or not.
Yeah, so you believe
The word
he's a
concept
pre-existent
fallacy.
angel, and I'm saying that
I didn't say he's an angel. I'd say he's pre-existent.
Paul says that he's the firstborn of all creation. He's described as a pre-existent.
In Hebrews, it says
that was
he's
there
not
before
an
the
angel,
creation
though.
of time, that was hidden in the
he's
scriptures since
pre-existent.
before the beginning of time.
All right, let's skip over the word angel. It doesn't mean what you think it means. He is pre-existent and divine, yes. What's the problem with that?
Yeah, this is the idea of the Logos, primordial Adam, intermediary Metatron type of character. This is how
the Logos theology
developed
is not
as
what
a
John's
cosmic
saying,
figure. He started as a mythological god, just like all the mythological gods.
Let me say, wait. Let me answer
Okay.
that. I told you already. The word, Jesus is the word, that memora concept, absolutely predates Philo by multiple centuries. It's found throughout the Old Testament. Jesus is not Philo's logos. It was just like manufactured in the New Testament. That's already in the Old Testament. He is, by the word of God, did this revelation come to Isaiah or Solomon, for example. That is understood to be the mediating one. Long before Philo was born, long before Philo. So even if a church
it's Middle
father...
Platonism.
No,
It's
long
based on
before that.
Platonism.
Dude, it's long before that. Every
what does that
serious
matter?
scholar...
They innovated,
just said
and
it's
other
Platonism,
cultures
dude.
adopted it and syncretically mixed
Good
it
for
with
them,
Judaism.
but that's not in the New Testament. So they're doing something that's incorrect. That's not proper Christianity. That's my argument.
What Philo says about the Logos is very similar to how Jesus is described by Paul.
Yeah, because he's copying the already pre-existent Jewish concept, which was the memora concept in the Old Testament. He's not inventing it out of thin air.
And Philo was talking about the same thing decades before Paul. So I'm
Right,
right again. Hey, I
but
gotta
the
do a
Jews
pee
are
break.
talking about it 600 years before Philo, so they're right.
Jeem,
Anyway, go ahead.
Can we do a pee break and while they play a commercial
Yeah, cool. I'll just get
before
stuff
the third
plugged in.
hour?
Yeah, that's fine. And then maybe wait, one last thing. When you're back, do you want to just go to the super chat stuff? I don't know how much time is left for the whole stream. Guys, moderators.
I'm fine with that. I don't know how many there are. You guys, I want Andrew to
If
make
you
some
guys
money
got
for
Steam to
hosting me.
keep going, we'll keep it going.
Because it says we have 42. I mean, it's up to you guys. I don't want to run out of time before we can finish some of the good questions. That's all.
Maybe get started with them and see where we're at, because that could start another deep discussion and take us in another direction or something. I'm sure.
I'll be back in 4 minutes then.
4-minute pee. Wow. You gonna take a smoke break too? Jeez, 4 minutes. You gonna take a poop?
All right, yeah, I'll take a quick one then.
Hey Kyle, what's up?
Not much, Jeem. How you doing?
I'm good. I saw you said sorry about the start of the debate. Yeah, what was wrong with the audio? I didn't understand.
Yeah, I have no idea. It just I could hear you guys at the beginning of it, and then all of a sudden my audio cut out. I couldn't hear anything.
Oh, that sucks. I'm just changing my lighting around because we got nighttime now. I get a question after the super chats. Are you gonna allow like call-ins?
Yeah, we're gonna take call-ins as well.
And you'll put like the StreamYard in the live chat or whatever.
Yeah, I believe there's already people waiting to come on and ask questions.
Would you mind if I put the link to a friend of mine? He wanted to pop in for 2
I'll post it in
seconds.
the private chat for you so you can send it.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I wanted to make sure I didn't just want to throw the guy in here and be like, I want to make sure we're doing that. I gotta say, I've had a lot of fun. This was a pretty good one.
It's been a spirited debate for sure.
A lot of redemption for me. I did my first appearance on the Crucible was pretty poor. This was actually pretty fun.
Yeah, I definitely know how that goes.
Kyle, what do you do, by the way, if I might ask? Like, what? It's the first time I've ever met you, so like, what kind of stuff?
I mean, I have a podcast. It's there in the name, the Two Tongues Podcast. We just talk about, I tend to talk about more cultural, political things, and my co-host is more into the philosophical, spiritual. He's not. He would say he's Christian. I don't think that you would accept his claim to Christianity.
I'm pretty strict, so
yeah.
it's not your fault.
I mean, to be fair, I don't really either. I love the guy, but I think he's maybe a little off the base with that sort of thing. But yeah, Two Tongues Podcast. Check us out. Anybody who's interested.
You're on YouTube, you said, or
Yeah,
like
YouTube, Spotify, all that stuff. Absolutely.
Cool. Why did we not do Rumble? Was there a reason to stay on YouTube? I mean,
I think the issue with that, when you clicked on the link and it said it was private, I don't think that they could figure out what was going on with that.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, like Mr. E said, this is gonna be not on YouTube. But I honestly, I thought you guys did a pretty good job of keeping it safe.
Yeah, after the first 15 minutes, I think we stopped with the saying Jew so much, so it got a little better. But yeah, so you said it'll be on Rumble or something? This one?
I'm not sure if this one will be on Rumble. It's definitely going to be on the Crucible.video.
Oh, okay. Crucible.video. I'm going to check that out real quick while we wait. .video. See what it looks like. Oh, it's like
and for everybody, we're just waiting for Adam to come back to start the super chat section. After that, we will we'll do the callers, and yes, condolences
I've
to
been
me
here
for being Canadian, Jim Bob. All right, here we go. Take it away, boys.
Yeah.
Are we just continuing to talk a little, or are we going to do the questions?
Let's go into the super chat section now, because like you said, we got 31 to go through here, and then we got a bunch of callers stacking up, so we might as well get rolling on that.
Okay.
All right, I'll leave the stage to you.
All right, so we'll get to the super chats here. Debate drinking game. Anytime Jeem mentions anything related to Greek philosophy, take a drink. Try not to get drunk, LMAO. You want to respond to that one, Jeem?
No, I know that guy. He's on my channel all the time.
It's a real from John Beert. It's real currency doing it. Dang it. It's because it's Australian. I get the joke. Nietzsche said Jewish theology conquered Rome and trapped Europe in slave morality. Dune is about Plato's noble lie in creating a false religion to control the masses. He named the main Messiah character Paul. He knew.
When they call him the Mahdi,
too.
They call him the Mahdi that's fulfilling prophecy that was planted. It's like he totally knows how the prophecy deception is used to control people and get them to expect a Messiah.
I would just say that with Nietzsche's writings, of which I've read some but not all, his issue is he doesn't understand why God would allow some obscure group from the desert to have moral influence on Europe. But when he says Christianity's place for the masses, it's kind of telling about what I was going for, which is that, yeah, a lot of Christianity is straight up Platonism, and that's why I consider a lot of it false. So I don't necessarily disagree with what Omega's saying, but I'm just saying that there's a lot salvageable there that I don't think comes from the Hebrews, but from overindulgence in philosophy.
Do you have an example of that? Like, which part of the Bible do you think is not Jewish enough, too European for your taste?
No, not the Bible. I'm saying that, and again, I have nothing wrong. Yeah, doctrines. Okay. It's not about being European. The Germanics, by the way, were Arians who rejected most of the council, so they would have probably agreed that they didn't like Hellenic philosophy either. Like, I'm attacking specifically one section of philosophy. Gallic people, Celts and Germanics wouldn't have been doing Greek philosophy. But my point is, dualism, extreme dualism, saying the earthly life doesn't matter, we just got to escape from our bodies, and the soul is trapped inside the body. All this really high soul theology is not really that biblical. And a lot of priests and theologians recently have been writing about that subject. So that's one example. I don't want to take up too much more time.
All right, on to the next one. I'm not spurging. It hurts you guys, from Sarcastic Warlock. We got the Blackfish. Ah, yes, the old after much bloodshed for Sky Daddy, we saved the world. More so, the Bible has been heavily edited to the point of being useless. Not much of a question there, but anybody want to respond to that? Jeem?
I'll let Adam go first.
We don't exactly know how much it's been edited because we only have copies of copies of copies, and we don't have any of the originals. And there's kind of like a dark period of church fathers even acknowledging the canonical gospels and the synoptics until like 180 AD. But as far as the Old Testament, they've got their old translations, and there was some found in the Dead Sea Scrolls that were very similar, basically the same stuff. But there's scribal errors. There's combining. I mean, some of Paul's letters could have been combinations of other letters with other things removed. They've been doctored and meddled with for sure before the canon was solidified after a few hundred years. It was a messy thing that people didn't agree on also.
I would just add to that really quickly that I don't think the argument of copy is too strong. Definitely for the Western churches, there's some issues and mistranslations that cause lack of coherency, but the Septuagint and the Syriac Peshitta are both examples of Bibles where there's really none of these scribal issues as much, and even some of the translations are different from the original, or sorry, not the original, but from the more Western manuscripts. So that would just be my answer for that. And then with the heavily edited part, I think Christians have actually been pretty honest with if they find a scribal error, they immediately throw it out. It's not like they try to keep it in the text itself.
All right. On to the next one here.
Also, there's a lot of forgery and pseudepigrapha. You cited Bart Ehrman earlier. He has a book called Forge, showing how letters were forged in people's names and prophecies were stated after events already took place. So,
all right, on to the next one here from Omega for $5. Roman Republic, early empire were peak Western civilization. Largest contiguous territory, architecture, aesthetics still copied, martial honor, law and order. Again, not much of a question there.
I actually do want to put a comment on that, unless Adam has one first.
Well,
Okay.
I wouldn't say that they're the peak of civilization, because we've had 2,000 years of innovation in science and sociological time for progress. But they definitely did have a huge empire and great architecture and philosophy and stuff. It wasn't like Christianity built the West and we would have been a bunch of barbarians without it, and we needed the Bible and the chosen people to give us morality and give us build society or build good buildings and stuff.
Okay.
That's degrading.
My comment would be, I actually do agree with Adam that Rome was obviously a great civilization long before Christianity, but actually the example of Rome is perfect for my argument, because if you read Arthur Herman's The Cave and the Light and any historical philosophical studies, they'll show you that the Roman Empire started to die out before Christianity took place because they didn't find a purpose in their life due to over-philosophizing with Plato and Aristotle. Exactly my point, that a lot of the root issues come from philosophy, and they even impacted their own people. Like the Romans took so much Greek philosophy, they kind of melted their own brains, not being able to find a purpose in life until Plotinus came about. So I guess that would be my point on that topic.
All right.
Plenty of people living lives with purpose before the Bible, but go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that in general, the Romans became nihilistic after too many years of pondering philosophy. That's all.
I think there's lots of contributing factors that led to the downfall, and not too much philosophizing, I don't think, is at the top of the list.
I disagree.
It wasn't exclusively Christianity, but it did play a role as well, too.
All right, let's just move on, because we'll agree to disagree there. I say Arthur Herman proved that without a doubt, but we should go to the next question.
All right. From Elias the Aquanaut. Adam seems like someone who is so anti-J he can't believe in Jesus Christ because that would mean they win.
Yeah, it is them winning when you worship their God and their Messiah that was meant to conquer us. So yeah, you're right. That is the problem I have with Christianity. I thought I've made that pretty clear.
All right. From Contemporary Compendium for $5. I'd love to see Adam Green try to hold a candle to inspiring philosophy. Mike Jones on the historicity of Christianity. Adam just makes baseless claims. Adam, you want to respond to Contemporary Compendium there?
Baseless claims. That's a baseless claim. I've got a whole playlist, dozens of videos where I go in-depth, 2-hour videos, multiple ones, going into all the scripture, Old and New Testament. I'm about to share screen and do it some more. Hours and hours of clips of Christians vindicating what I say, rabbis vindicating what I say. So that's just a baseless comment. And I encourage anybody to... Jeem didn't do a very good job at trying to refute my points. I think he was 0 for 4 and just did a lot of straw manning and pontificating. But if you guys want to point out specifically where I'm wrong about anything, I'm open to hear your criticisms.
All right. From Sarcastic Warlock for $10. Adam, have you ever read a book by Herman Weiland called Atlantis, Edda, and Bible from 1924? In brief, Christ was a plagiarized and subverted version of Baldur, and Christianity is older than Christ.
I believe that the Christianity could have evolved and began, like a lot of the Dead Sea Scrolls, you see lots of stuff that you would think would be unique to Christianity and Jesus, like circumcised of the heart, in the wilderness preparing the way, a new covenant, bathing, purification rituals, many things like that. But as far as your scholar and your book, never heard of it. And whoever Jesus is supposedly is, I've never heard of that theory, and I highly doubt it if I haven't heard of it.
All right. From Willie Jenkins. I'm getting them out of order here. Willie Jenkins for $5. My question is for Adam. How did you fit that many turds inside your head?
Strong arguments.
Strong.
Yeah.
From Sarcastic Warlock for $20. Adam, a perfect example of a change made in the Bible that created a subversion is the addition of Lucifer to the Vulgate by Bishop Jerome as an attack on his enemy, Bishop Lucifer, who stood against a small hat heresy.
I think I've heard of that, but I haven't investigated it closely, so wouldn't want to comment on it.
All right. From Mato Music 805 for $4.99. J8 Sanatana Dharma, the eternal natural way. Hare Krishna, the Bhagavad Gita is way deeper than the Bible.
I'm not an expert on that book.
Any comment?
So
All
Looks
right.
like
I wouldn't
like
make
a
that claim.
Hindu shill to me, but what else we got?
All right. Elias the Aquanaut gifted 1 Crucible membership. Thank you very much, sir. Contemporary Compendium again for $5. Adam makes a claim. Jeem, can I respond to that? Adam, no, it's irrelevant. Adam is the most bad faith debater I've seen on the Crucible.
Some of my questions were rhetorical. I'm sure Andrew, your host Andrew, uses rhetorical questions as well. So
I thought it
Go
was a
harder.
good debate. I
Go
thought it was a
harder.
decent debate, actually, to be honest.
I did too.
This was good.
I said
This
that.
was good.
All right.
One of the best ones I've had on Crucible. I'll give you that, Jeem.
Nice.
From Omega, Torah equals chosen. From Omega for $5. Torah equals chosen supremacy. New Testament equals universal morality and pacifism for the goys who are meant to be ruled. It's obvious why the difference exists.
Yeah. My supporters are out in the chat representing.
Okay.
I love it.
I'm going to respond to that. Jesus tells us to love our personal enemies in his sermon. He does not say you have to love God's enemies. He says the law and the prophets are fulfilled, meaning they're forever, not done away with. In 2 Chronicles, it says, 2 Chronicles 19, you cannot love somebody who hates God, because then the wrath of God would be on you. And so if Jesus if Jesus loved God's enemies, he wouldn't be trashing the Pharisees in Matthew 23 and other places, and he wouldn't be in Revelation 2 destroying all the children who worship, or the youths who worship Jezebel and these other things. So when Christ is quoting and saying, love your enemies, Moses already said that in Exodus 23:4. Solomon said it in Proverbs 24:17 and 25:21-22. All those guys loved their enemies, but they still sawed people's heads off. So you're allowed to declare war. You're supposed to love people who are in your lives. You're not supposed to bend over for enemies of God.
All right. From Mato Music 805 for $4.99. All Abrahamic religions are a cancer. I only trust the Vedas.
Okay.
Any comment on the Vedas from either of you guys?
I don't know what's up with all these
A lot of Hindus here, man.
these Indian Hindu shills
Here
here.
he is again.
All right.
They're tired of the Abrahamic religions too, apparently.
From Mato Music for $9.99. Christ Krishna. Everything was stolen from India Aryans, the Vedas. The West is so far behind spiritually. Always bickering about these Abrahamic religions. It's worthless.
Okay. I would just say India's behind in more ways than one, but we could go to the next
Yeah,
comment.
I don't know if we want to go there with who's behind. And that's not my argument. I don't believe that Jesus is like a new version of Buddha. I'm not even convinced that there was any influence at all. It's possible there could have been. It doesn't seem to be an amalgamation of a lot of like Dionysian and Romulus and other pagan stories that they syncretically blended with the Son of Man suffering Messiah.
All
Disagree
right.
with that. We'll go to the next one.
From Omega for $5. Jeem keeps going back to why is it bad? How would it be good for a tribe to say they speak for God and then wipe out all other folk traditions?
My answer to that would be in your belief system, there's no reason for why it's really good or bad. You could appeal to logic and like basic common sense, but again, that wouldn't get you so far because all that stuff is built up from the last 2,000 years of philosophy. And the guys who invented universal morality, Plato's Timaeus 29-32, is where he specifically talks about universal morality. He's basing that on the fact that there is some kind of God and a demiurge who exists. So Europe's whole history, the West, again, highlighted in Arthur Herman's book, The Cave in the Light, is a competition between Aristotle and Plato. So my answer to that is, how could it be bad, and how would you know it's bad?
You realize that your argument actually boils down to here that you can't say the Bible is bad unless you agree that the God of the Bible is where objective morality comes from.
No, I didn't say objective morality. I completely said, no, I don't believe in that. I said God's objectives that he gives in the Bible are based on his subjective mind. They're not, I didn't say they're objective.
But still,
All
nonetheless, you're still saying you have to concede that the Christian Orthodox God is real. Otherwise, you can't explain you can't say it's immoral. You can't say if it's true or not. That is what you're doing.
I'm
How
saying
do you know
that
that's
you
bad?
can't.
You can't
No, no,
prove
no.
that that's bad if you don't believe in my God. That's
say,
what you're ultimately
You could
saying.
say something's bad. I'm just pointing out you're getting it from Greek philosophers. So how is that any different from
No,
me
I'm
getting
not.
it from Hebrew prophets? I didn't say you particularly.
Greek philosophy has nothing to
referring to
do with
Omega.
why I think the Old Testament and New Testament are bad.
I don't know.
Nothing to do with
I
it.
think universal morality, saying we shouldn't have other people suffer, comes from Plato's Timaeus, not originally from the Bible. In Romans 9, Paul says God is correct because he's the one with all the power. He doesn't say because he affirmed some like universal
Dude,
category.
the concept of morality came before Plato also.
I didn't say Plato invented
you
everything.
can find versions of morality found in other species.
Okay, but they're not the same though. They're not coherent.
No,
Like the
ours
Assyrians
are
thought
more advanced.
Assyrians thought that theft was worse than murder, but the God of the Bible says murder is worse than theft. Well, how do you know which one's true if you don't believe in either of them? Which one is objectively true there? That's the problem. Now we can go to the next one if you want.
All right. From my good buddy on Twitter, Deacon Swaden from NFTU, True Orthodox News and Apologetics. Adam, you kept saying Yahweh was the alleged God of Israel, etc. Are you aware the word didn't exist until 1869?
Again, what's with these word games? Is this the best comments you guys have? The God of the Bible, the God of Abraham, Jehovah, Yahweh.
I'd say Jehovah's a lot
whatever
more
you want to
historical.
call him.
Well, it's not necessarily word games. It's that that was created later as
What do you want me to call him? It's still the same. We're talking about the same character.
I'd say Jehovah's more historical, to be honest.
Okay. Jehovah will make everybody happier. I don't care. I'll call it Jehovah. Doesn't make a difference to me. It's still the same exact concept.
All right. From the Blackfish for $5. God promises Jeebus is coming back to kill the majority of the Earth's population. That's what makes it bad. Let's talk about the end of the book now.
Okay. It doesn't say he's going to
Comments on
kill.
Revelation.
Yeah, it doesn't say he's going to kill the majority of the Earth's population. And it also, Jesus never says he's going to destroy the world. He says end of the aeon in Greek, not end of the world. So at the end of the age, then things will come to pass. He's not saying end of the world. It doesn't destroy the world.
I don't know a verse that says that he destroys whatever that comment said, millions of people or whatever.
Yeah,
but it does say he's
say
going to
that.
return and smite the nations, and it uses imagery that's found in Isaiah 63 of the Messiah coming out of Edom, and he treads the winepress, and his robe is dripping in blood, and it's always directed at the nations also. The nations and that's what the rabbis want too. They chant, we want Moshiach now. They want their Moshiach ben David as prophesied in the Torah to fulfill the prophecies and rule over the nations, and that's also what Christians want. So they're contributing to the Judeo agenda.
I would just say the rabbis wanted that in the first century. They didn't get it because even though they thought, oh, we have these prophecies, as I said, prophecies are not one-to-one, and if they don't obey God, which they did not, he does not give them what they desire. So it may have been that prophecy was just there to get them excited, but God was going to let them down in the first place no matter what. I mean, that's kind of what it implies in the New Testament, that they were 100% wrong. And so if they reject Christ, they don't get their conquering Messiah.
So
Anyway.
before Christianity, the Gentiles weren't waiting for a Messiah. After Christianity, Paul became the apostle to the Gentiles, and now they're all waiting for a Messiah, which is what the rabbis were doing.
Jesus says not to wait.
Waiting for the Messiah to come.
Jesus says not to wait because you don't know what day or hour. So you're not supposed to predict it and just sit around.
Still,
You
you
live your
think he's
life.
coming. You think he's coming. Maybe you can say
He
you're
already
not
did.
waiting, but you're expecting him. You have the expectations of a second coming.
Yes, but I don't understand how that's bad.
Same
I
thing.
mean, it's not the same
Waiting,
exact-
expectations, word games.
It's not when he says that he's going to put the enemies or the nations as his footstool. It doesn't mean wipe out their entire population. It just means
No,
they
just rule
submit
over
to his
them.
will.
Just have them worship him.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. From Omega for $5. Torah messianism is bad inherently because it devalues life on earth and also requires an apocalypse, which is self-fulfilling. It's a death cult. No comment. On to the next one. All right. From P. Divine for $5. Another Jeem classic.
Hey, nice to see you, P. Divine. Haven't seen you in a whole week. A regular.
From Dean Lem 2 for $4.99. Adam Green's new username should be Gishmore Gallop.
Sorry, I've got lots of arguments to make.
All right. Next one here.
Oh, that's it for super chats. So
Okay.
that's the last one. So go to callers, I guess.
Nice.
I'll bring them up in the order they're in the studio.
Can you talk to the first one? I'll be back in 30 seconds. I broke the seal and got to go again. Last one for 40 minutes. 2 and a 3-hour break ain't bad. I'll be right back.
Go ahead.
You can take the first. You can chat with the first.
Okay.
Who we got? Let's see.
Oh, crap. I was hoping I wouldn't be first.
What's up? Okay, well, I guess he's not first.
You ask and you shall receive. Oh, we got Corinth. Welcome to the show, Corinth.
I guess that means I have to go on Jeem here.
What's up?
So, what do you think myth is going to entail being false?
Can you repeat that? I didn't hear you.
Do you think something being a myth is going to entail it being false?
Not necessarily. You could have a conspiracy or a myth partially based on truth.
Sure. So, does that mean there's no contention, like Christianity can be a myth and you're fine with just accepting that because it can still be true?
I don't really deal with hypotheticals. Like it's not a myth. It doesn't matter if it could be or could not be in another world.
This isn't a hypothetical. This is fully cashing out the term of what myth means here. If myth isn't entailing it being false, I'm not sure what you mean by it being a myth.
Well,
Or
most of the
nothing.
time, a myth has to be false. You could have a myth where, again, it's based on a solid frame of truth and then gets carried away into falsehood. So in the end, it's still majority false, but you could still base it on an original true teaching, to clarify what I meant.
Okay, so myth has to be false. So when we talk about things like the Exodus from Egypt with Moses leading the Jews, and we don't see any historical record of there being a mass migration through the desert at that time,
We do.
does that not push the needle towards it being more of a falsity there?
No, because there is a good amount of archaeology based on that. You're not going to find anything of them
There's not a
migrating through
singular
Sinai.
piece of archaeology showing
Yes, there
There's
is.
nothing confirming the
There's
Exodus.
nothing.
Yes, there is. There's
No.
evidence.
Can you point
Should
to
not
any of
stand
it then?
true. Okay, there's a lot of signs of Semitic Canaanite habitation in Goshen and other parts of Egypt, which is distinct from native Egyptian habitation and settlement design.
That's
Is
not
this
proof
on
of
the
though.
Exodus?
That's not
Because
proof
I
of the
just
Exodus
said
story.
Egypt. They lived in Egypt. Let me continue. All right?
We're
The
not
desert-
disputing that some
we're
of
not
them
disputing this.
probably lived in Egypt, though.
Well, they have to be there for the myth
there
to
can
begin
be
in the first
there
place.
can be Semites in Egypt, and that doesn't follow that Moses
wasn't my
led them
only
through the
argument.
desert after splitting the sea, right?
Okay, that wasn't my only argument. Second of all, there are a lot of Paleo-Hebrew scripts found in the desert that have been discovered that talk about the land of Israel and that talk about later things
And
like King
which
Omri.
ones are in the desert that's been said that Moses led them through on an Exodus?
I think we have some that are a little bit later, like the Israel steel and the
Okay, so
Moabite stone.
none of them are showing that
Um,
there was actually an Exodus. There's no
Yeah,
historical
there's
record of an Exodus.
There's Paleo-Hebrew records that are
You're
found.
saying
both
that
in
these were done
Sinai
after the
and
fact.
Western
These are
Arabia.
things stating after the fact.
No,
That's not a record of it.
No, they dated it, and it was not found to be after. It was snugly with the time scale of when the Exodus was supposed to happen. Which
Okay,
is like
can you
1300 years
Can you tell
before
me what
Christ.
it is so I can just quickly check that?
Yeah, it's these. They have these Paleo-Hebrew scripts. Some of them are in Saudi Arabia. Some of them are in other places as well. I don't remember the exact article I read. It was a while ago, and I was still trying to write my book. But basically, the Saudi scholars said that it came from the same civilization, which is called Midian in the Old Testament. And also, the Old Testament does describe the geography of that area pretty accurately. I don't understand
so
how we're
in
supposed to
Saudi
find a
Arabia. So the Exodus of Moses and the Jews went through Saudi Arabia.
That's one theory. There's multiple. Some say it goes through the Sinai Peninsula, which belongs to Egypt. Others say
yeah, there are multiple theories. Only one of them can be true, though, right?
Yeah, but I'm not an expert on this subject, so I don't know which one.
You have evidence for this one, which you're saying is sufficient evidence, which is going to entail all the other ones being false on your view, right? Or it's no longer evidence that this happened.
Of a subject that I'm not a master of. You're expecting me to have all this information that I do not have.
You being a master or not. This is, you're saying you have evidence of this happening here. This is going to entail every other hypothesis being false if this one is true. And you're saying this one is true.
I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying this
so you're not
evidence of it. If it's true,
so if
then
it's
that
not
would imply
true,
that it's the correct route.
If it's not true, then I want evidence of this Exodus.
I don't know which ones are true. I have not studied this subject in depth. I'm giving you an example of one that I heard of. I don't know if it's true. That's all I said.
But your evidence is, I heard someone say this thing. I have no idea if it's true or not. That's really bad evidence.
Hey, listen up, Corinth. You do realize that people don't believe the Bible based on archaeologically finding the Exodus Red Sea. It's based on the fact that, as Ezekiel Kaufman says, the Bible accurately describes the entirety of the reality around us in a way that none of the pagan religions did before. It does not talk about dualism, which literally every other pagan religion does. Doesn't mention the Assyrian and later Neoplatonic.
Which is why we made the distinction about what you felt was a myth earlier and how it can start from truth and then lead to a majority of falsehoods.
Yeah, but the majority of it is 100% coherent. It never goes into pagan falsehood. It's completely unique.
We're going on this. Are you just going to bite? Okay, so the Exodus is like a falsity here?
No, I'm saying I am not the guy to prove it.
So why are you trying to pivot off of it?
Because you mentioned the Exodus, buddy.
Yeah, I mentioned a case of it showing
No. You said I have to prove the Exodus or one of these other myths. Otherwise, we can't believe in the Bible.
No, you said you have evidence that the Exodus happened.
Yeah,
I'm asking you to show the evidence. I'm saying you're lying about it.
Evidence is not the same as proof, buddy. Evidence is, here's some stuff that might lead to the truth. We don't necessarily know for sure. I'm not the expert on that subject. I'm the expert on metaphysics and the historicity of the Bible, not on the exact excavations of people who wandered around in the desert in tents and would not have left any archaeology.
And this is the historicity of the Bible. If people are walking around in the desert at that scale, they are going to have left.
Really, people leave footprints in the sand, which changes like every day.
It's not just footprints. Do you think that's the only thing that can be left by people in a mass
migration? They had a lot of stuff with them if they were out there surviving for 40 years.
But they brought them with it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have survived.
So you're saying there's absolutely no refuse from 40 years of
no proof. He just has faith. It's
just footprints. That's the only thing you think is going to be there.
Yeah, I didn't say only footprints. You'll notice that in Saudi
that was the implication of your statement.
This day,
which is why I'm addressing it like this.
Finding brand new ruins of ancient pagan temples and churches that they didn't know were there because they were submerged thousands of years ago. We don't know everything that's in the desert. So just because we haven't found anything yet doesn't mean that there are zero. Again,
biblical archaeology is not my primary. It's true when I said we haven't found anything yet, or is it true that we have found things?
We have found some things. I'm not an expert on the materials. You'll have to ask somebody like Inspiring Philosophy about biblical archaeology. I'm not the man to go to for that question.
Okay, so the things we found pointed to it went through Saudi Arabia. Do you agree or disagree? That's what you just said, Jeem.
No, I said it could. And again,
can't you tell Jeem that Exodus? It's Passover right now too, by the way. The whole Exodus story is obvious fiction. God hardens Pharaoh's heart and has to send 10 plagues to show how powerful he is.
Yeah,
Moses has Aaron's staff turn into a snake and eat the staffs of the Egyptian priests. Like, come on, this is all definitely Hebrew fairy tales.
And as my friend Ezekiel says, actually, the Israel stele, which I mentioned, is 1200 BC. So that is actually around the time of the Exodus, and it mentions the Hivites and the Israelites. The Hivites are a specific Semitic group, and it wouldn't have known that if it were fake or if the Bible was 100% false. Again, you basing my worldview on can I answer biblical archaeology is not going to work.
Okay.
Because I'm not a master.
You already cashed out the term beforehand of it not necessarily being 100% false. You even agreed it can be starting from a place of truth that gets extended to being a falsehood.
You haven't demonstrated
still make it a myth.
How come no Egyptians wrote anything about the 10 plagues?
This is why we went down this already.
Here's
the Egyptians wrote about the Jews, though. They wrote about Israel. They wrote about the people.
Of course they wrote about the Jews.
They write about the Exodus.
They didn't write about any of the 10 plagues, though. Like, if that really happened, somebody would have mentioned it.
Yeah, that's appealing to...
No, that's appealing to reality.
No, it's not.
Appealing to reality and common sense.
Okay, wait, Jeem, what do you think it's appealing to?
You got no proof for it. That's
what's the fallacious argument you think is being made here?
abductive reasoning. You're just filling in
That's not
gaps of knowledge.
fallacious. Do you know
Yes,
what
it is.
abductive reasoning even is, Jeem?
Yes, I do. It's inference
What's
of the best
abductive reasoning?
inference of the best explanation.
That's not abductive reasoning.
Dude,
Yes, it is.
you're telling me
It's
that
not.
Moses split the water and there was frogs and all the plagues and no
Yeah.
Egyptian wrote about it, and
They
you're
don't.
saying it's a fallacy when you have
No,
no
I'm
proof
saying
of
it's
it.
a fallacy to say no. You can tell me that I have not presented the proper evidence in this 2-minute section here. That's fine. You cannot say it definitively is false because I haven't found the Egyptians writing about it.
Well,
That's
yeah,
false.
no one's saying it's definitively false. We're saying
you
it's
are.
pointing to be mythos. This is going to be
Yeah.
an inductive reasoning case. Now,
No, it's abductive
is,
to
no,
imply-
it's not, first of all. So it's
yes, it is.
inductive. It's
No, it's not.
inductive.
Corinth,
Guys, I
Corinth,
think
you gotta
we're
let
going in
Jeem
circles.
talk.
The chat's asking to move on. I think we
I mean,
Yeah,
you're
you're
just
eating a
lying
dead horse
here. So
here.
Dude, you're
I need-
mentally masturbating. You don't understand the difference. Applying to
Jeem,
the best
you
available
don't understand
source
what
does not make it
abduction
right.
even is.
Just,
Yes,
just
I
take the
am.
W and let's
Get
move
the-
on.
get out,
There's no
get
proof
out.
for Exodus. Take
you
the
don't know
W.
what
and move on.
abduction is.
Get the
We've
F
got
out.
We've got a
Can
few
I
more
just-
super
one
chats to
quick
read that got
sentence?
missed here.
No.
All right,
Really
one last thing, Corinth. Go ahead.
So abduction is just a form of inference. It's not going to be a fallacy. It's not going to be something that's bad. This is just a third form of reasoning with
Dude, I can
induction and
decide if
deduction.
it's bad or
It's
not.
just the weakest of the three forms.
Yes,
There's
and
nothing
you're using the
fallacious
weak-
about abduction.
Oh, really?
Now, what
Because
Jeem was trying to frame it
Richard
as is it's
Eisenberg-
invalid because it's abductive. This is going to be
No.
false and a fundamental misunderstanding
Really?
of what abduction even is.
All right, let me ask you a
What we're
question.
talking about is we're
Let me ask
let
you a
Jeem
question.
respond.
prior
Let
evidence
Jeem-
of
literally
there
writing
being-
a whole fucking essay.
I've
Shut up.
points that I'm getting.
You need to let Jeem respond. Okay.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
going to, little bitch. What I wanted to tell you was, if you agree with Dr. Richard Weisenberg, who says the best available story is what is true, that does not make it true just because it's the best available story. That is the crime of abduction. That is the crime of it being the weakest. I didn't say you could never abduct. We can abduct in a casual conversation, not when we're dealing with things that are of importance. Gosh.
All right. So now that that is cleared up, we missed a couple of super chats, so I'm going to go ahead and read those now. We've got one from Vladiro for $2. Adam's answer was basically, "We live in a society." All right, on to the next one.
That's how societies agree upon the morality of the society. It changes, just like Christians used to look at the Bible and said, "Oh, slavery is okay," but then now you do, and you change it because you guys are using. We're in modern times. You're using more common sense. It's less acceptable now, so that your morals changed. Your view on the interpretation of the morals changed. Societies do the same thing. It's common sense. Everybody knows this. Societies create their societal norms
Based on Aristotle. Actually, the whole reason they fought against slavery in Latin
exclusively.
America, not exclusively, but
Most people know nothing
reason-
about Aristotle, so no, it's not all based on that.
No. They know
They
about
think
him,
about it. They go,
and-
this guy says this is bad because of this, and this person says it's not bad because of that. And
No,
then they
they
agree
don't.
on it, and sometimes they get it wrong, sometimes they
Okay.
get it right.
Well, what I was going to say is the reason slavery was banned in the Spanish Empire is because a Catholic priest, a Dominican, was reading Aristotle about individualism and the rights of human individual beings, and that's how he ascertained that the natives in the Spanish Empire should not be subject to slavery. So, I mean, yeah, he has a good point, but that doesn't mean it's correct just because he
When they
quoted
constructed
Aristotle.
the Septuagint in the Old Testament as we know it, they were basing it on Plato's noble lie. The foundation of Christianity is a noble lie, and Christianity is an extension of that lie. That
No,
myth
they didn't.
that was
They
intended on
genuinely
theologically conquering the world.
Hey, I'll grant you that maybe Christianity isn't true. Irrelevant to that is the fact that the men who did the translating believed it was true. And actually, the people who did the Septuagint were Jews in Egypt who knew Greek. It wasn't the Christian church.
I believe also it was Jews that translated in Alexandria.
Yeah, that's the Septuagint. So they weren't Christians, first of all. And second of all,
I
they
didn't call them
genuinely believed in it.
Christians. I didn't
I'm just
call
pointing
the,
it
the
out.
translators of the Septuagint in 275 BC Christians. That would obviously not make sense.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just saying they didn't believe it was the total lie. Even if you could sit back and say that now, they actually believed what they were doing.
What's
All
even
right.
more problematic than there being no extra biblical evidence of the Exodus, nobody wrote about all of the miraculous things of the New Testament outside of the Bible. There's no Star of Bethlehem mentioned. There's no slaughter of the innocents, no mention of that at all. None of the events of Jesus, of his miracles, or flipping of the money
there are
changers temples. Not the 3 hour of darkness, nobody mentioned. Not the saints rising from the graves and the crucifixion. Nobody wrote about anything about Christianity until
No, that's
80 years
incorrect.
later. with
That's
Tacitus
incorrect.
and Pliny the Younger. 80
No.
years after the fact. They were not
Dude.
eyewitnesses. Christianity was already circulating. This is what's your answer to this? There's
My
no
answer
mention of the
is-
God on earth until 80 years later.
Okay, the ancient Chinese actually did corroborate the black sun, so the
No, they didn't.
the eclipse. Yeah, they did. And
No,
then
that's
second of all, we do have writings that aren't from 80 years later, such as Abgar V, who says that
Nope.
he's heard of Jesus, who is called
No.
a god or divine,
No, that's
and he's heard of his miracles.
You'll need to provide the citation for that because it's well known. Josephus is the first, and then Pliny the Younger, Tacitus, Suetonius.
but
Those are the
Abgar as
earliest
well.
ones. Whoever you're
They
mentioning
were
right now is illegitimate.
He's not illegitimate. They contest the exact dating. It might have been 5 to 10 years later than what
What's
they
the
would say
name
it
again?
was. Abgar 5, Abgar V in the Roman numerals. And he wrote a letter to Christ, supposedly at the time that he existed, basically offering assistance and asking, what are you about? Who are you? I've heard you are a god. I've heard that you are one who is healing people. So whoever he is, he knew about that. Again, that's not 100% proof. He could have just heard the stories, but there is example of that letter.
Or this could be a forgery as well. I'm looking into it, but I've done a lot of research from both sides into the historicity of Jesus, and I've not ever seen somebody cite this one. I've seen a lot of debates, and they've never brought up this one. So,
All right, let's check it out. You can always read it a little later. Let's
All right. On to
Let's
the
see
next
what
super
else we
chat. From Sarcastic Warlock, a membership perk for being a member for 2 months, or 10 months, excuse me. Jeed, I assume he's talking about Jeem, is like a young Gad Sad.
maybe
So-
in like appearance, but like that dude is. I don't really talk like that guy is. I know who he's talking about.
that guy's not a Christian apologist.
Yeah,
I'll say that.
yeah, he's not at all. Are we gonna do more call-ins? By the way, I know there were a few people.
Yeah. We're going to do some more call-ins. We just wanted to take care of these super chats that got missed. From Made by Jim Bob for $4.99. Adam, do you believe the formation of your brain was the result of a long-form accident?
I wouldn't describe it as an accident. I describe it as a phenomena of building blocks, building upon one another through evolution. Yes, our brains are a product of evolution.
All right. From Willie Jenkins for $2. The majority of gays are also atheists. So
Yeah, and there's plenty of closeted gay priests also. Are you saying that without the Bible you would be gay?
Smeared.
Smeared.
all right. Another from Willie Jenkins for $5. Adam, show us on the doll where the Reformation touched you.
You guys have really bad arguments.
That's
I'd be
kinda
embarrassed as to have super chats full of stuff like that.
From Mado Music 805 for $4.99. All Abrahamic religions are designed to keep us divided. J8 Santana Dharma.
This guy's really spending his paycheck tonight on these super chats.
I don't know who this guy is, honestly. Is this
Fun.
one of my followers? Or is he a regular on your show?
I've never met him.
From Made by Jim Bob for $4.99. Adam, are laws of logic dependent on a mind? Yes, and the laws of logic exist before human minds. What say you?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Nobody's doing logic if there's no minds to do the logic.
All right. We got one from Willie Jenkins for $2. Adam is a turkey buzzard.
Oh, he got you.
Burn. Turkey buzzard. What is a turkey buzzard?
Mr. E says skip the insult supers in the private chat.
Yeah. It's
Gotcha.
embarrassing on the channel and a waste of everybody's time.
All right. From Mado Music, the Austrian painter was right.
Okay.
All right.
I don't know who they're
From
talking about.
The
I just want to pre-read some of these. Corn Pop the Bad Dude for $5. Can someone tell this ortho bro to stop ducking down and we'll say pleasuring Dyer off screen? It's a bit distracting.
Okay, I would just mention that again. I purposefully did not really use. I don't think I used any tag in this debate at all because I didn't want people to accuse me of just copy pasting Jay Dyer stuff and making it the same as the previous debate that Adam did.
Thank you. We all appreciate it. We're
yeah,
very
we're
gracious.
just
You
gonna
didn't
we're just
torture
gonna
us
skip
with that.
all of the all of the insult supers, dude, just don't read them if it's stupid shit like that. Okay,
Yeah.
like
Yep,
that's what
I'll
I meant. I
pass 'em
said
up.
don't.
It's making me look
skip-
too good to have such
Yeah.
terrible comments.
No, I'm like, dude. I mean, I don't know who half. We get people from all spots. Anyway, whatever. We're moving on.
All right. From the Blackfish for $5. I have 2 Jehovah Witness sisters. I've seen firsthand the twisting of religion. Thanks for a good debate, Jeem and Adam.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for watching it.
All right. From 2 Thrive for $4.99. Found Adam through Witsit. This was awesome to see the sparring. Good job, Jeem. Hope to see you on the Crucible again. Truthers seek truth.
It's a conspiracy.
From the Aquarian TV, Jeem scapegoats Christianity, yet the schism didn't happen just until 1054, but Gene did better than the others debating Adam.
Let me make a comment on that. I think what he's trying to say, sorry, he said, I scapegoated by saying the schism didn't start till 1054. Everyone knows in the early church there were a variety of different views. I'm not saying everybody was just Greek Orthodox. They had variety of views, like Tertullian's not a saint for a reason, neither is Origen. But my point was, a lot of the blood atonement theology comes later.
But it's in the scriptures, though. It says there's no repentance without blood.
Right. No, I agree with you. I'm just saying that this conspiracy that they wanted the Gentiles to believe in, like, blood magic doesn't hold
That's not
up
a
for the first
conspiracy. That's
1,000
just
years.
what it is.
But they didn't
don't-
believe that for the first 1,000 years. That was my point.
Sure they did. Were they not doing the Eucharist?
They did. They said Christus Victor, that Christ died to defeat death, not that he was a satisfactory atonement.
He died to
different.
defeat death.
Yes, that's called Christus
But everybody
Victor.
still dies.
No,
doesn't make any
eternal
sense.
death. Like you die, but you'll have eternal life after. That's what he defeated. That's what
So
the
a
Eastern,
promise in the afterlife that nobody can prove.
the resurrection. Not necessarily heaven, but the resurrection, yeah.
Yeah. He came to a couple of his devout followers and nobody else.
I mean, I would say that's wrong because the religion did spread around the world, even if he only spoke to some crowds in
Yeah,
Palestine.
plenty of religions that started on mythological figures spread around the world. And the resurrection appearance to the 500, why would that be in Paul's but not in any of the other gospels? Because it didn't happen.
What do you mean? He did when he resurrected in the start of Acts. He goes to heaven with a whole group there. That wasn't written by Paul. That's by
Just like the rapture people, they all floated away in heaven together.
No, just
And nobody
Christ
wrote
went-
about this
no,
outside of the
just
Bible. We're
Christ-
just going to take their word for it.
Just Christ went to heaven. Nobody else went except him. He
That's
went on
what
a
I thought.
cloud up to heaven. Yeah, everybody going to rapture stuff's total garbage.
All right. To both, how would y'all feel if y'all had breakfast this morning? Also, how would y'all feel if y'all had only a bagel this morning?
I don't understand the question. I did have breakfast this morning.
He got
All
it.
right.
If I did have breakfast, I would be full and nourished.
Nailed it. All right.
We're almost at 3 hours. Nice.
I got to pee again, but I'm holding it. Just let everybody know.
All right. From 2 Thrive, my super chat was skipped. I believe we got to it. From 2 Thrive again. Okay. From the Aquarian TV for $4.99. Jeem scapegoats Catholicism, yet the East-West schism didn't happen until 1054. Overall, Jeem did better than others debating
We
Adam.
read that one.
No, he worded
Yeah, I
it
think-
slightly differently. I'll respond.
Yeah, he sent it twice.
I'll clarify again, dude. I'm saying that I wasn't scapegoating Catholicism. I was just saying that the substitutionary atonement theology is more emphasized later, especially amongst the reformers. So even if it's in the Bible, the Gentiles weren't believing in it on day one. It took a long time for that emphasis to move over. That was my point. So I'm not saying Catholicism is the root of all evil. Just there's a difference between those two theologies. But thanks for the question.
Doesn't Isaiah 53, that's obviously the Jesus narrative is based on, say that there's an atonement for sin? The sins will be atoned in one day. That's also,
it says his
that's also
stripes-
Daniel.
Yeah, his stripes will heal us. Yeah, it's definitely in the Bible. The early church did not believe in emphasizing the atonement. They emphasized the Christus Victor theology. That's the difference. Like they're not saying, oh, he didn't die for the sins. They're just saying that wasn't the main purpose. It was Christus Victor. That's what the first 1,000 years were like, on the Latin side particularly.
All right. From Dirty Mike for $5. Do all of our copies of the Bible actually mean we don't know what the Bible originally said? Elaborate, please.
Yeah,
Go ahead
actually,
first.
a lot of scholars think that the original ending of Mark, that they added a new ending onto the end of Mark, and the original Mark, the first gospel, doesn't have the birth narrative. None of the Bible until Matthew and Luke talks about the virgin birth narrative. The whole nativity scene is completely cherry-picked, inspired from Scripture, to the manger, to the swaddling, to the magi, to the gifts they brought, to the star, Numbers 24:17, the star that rises out of Jacob. Over that, again, nobody outside of the Bible mentioned this miraculous star as well.
Oh, okay.
And-
I'll give my 2 piece on it. I would just say I think it's kind of erroneous to say, and then hang on a second. Mr. E says move to the callers after this one. Okay. I would just say it's erroneous to say because the earliest manuscript we have thus found doesn't have something, therefore it wasn't meant to be, or it's never been in it.
It's not
And
the earliest
secondly-
that we found; it was the earliest that was written. Didn't start with the
No.
birth narrative. It starts with Jesus being baptized, and
Yeah,
then,
but
and
this
then
is the
the
thing,
end.
dude.
There's no resurrection appearance in Mark
Okay,
either. That
but
didn't
why-
come till later.
Why should we have 4 gospels that are exactly identical? Like the point of having 4 was to have 4 different with different themes. Like the theme of Mark is not the Jewish law, that's the theme of Matthew. The theme of the divine Jesus is really the gospel of John for the most part. It's like, why do we need to have 4 that are exactly the same gospel? We would just have 1 then. We have 4 because they are different. They might have a different way of analyzing the life of Christ. That's the point.
No, we have 4, and it's the synoptic problem because they know that Matthew copied Luke, and then Luke copied Matthew and Mark and expanded on them.
Again, that would be the Greek copy of Matthew that we have, and not the one all the church fathers say we have the original in Hebrew. Could have been
No,
worded
it's
differently.
not all the church fathers. There's no proof of Hebrew. In fact, you can see that it's written from the Septuagint, so it wasn't original
Oh,
in
dude,
Hebrew.
I already said
And also,
that.
hold on, let me correct this because there's a great book. Please, I suggest you read it, Jeem. You'll find it interesting. The Jesus the Jews Never Knew by Frank Zindler. And it talks about how the Ebionites have a lost book called the Gospel according to there's a Gospel of the Hebrews that they had. and
Yeah,
a
I
Gospel
know.
according to the Ebionites. And they say that that was similar or may have been called some type of Hebrew Matthew, but that's not the Matthew that we have today.
No, because I'm saying that it's not just these Ebionites, even though it's good that you brought that up. All the church fathers, like people who actually are post-New Testament, who already accepted Christianity, who think the Ebionites are total heretics, are saying, Irenaeus, Papias, Clement, Eusebius, and others all say we have the Gospel of Matthew in its Hebrew in the library of Caesarea. Clement says the letter to the Hebrews was likely written in Hebrew, Paul's original tongue, and translated to Greek. And my evidence for the fact that Paul didn't handwrite everything is in the letter to the Romans near the end. It says, I, Tertius, wrote this epistle to you, even though Paul's the one who addresses it.
They can tell that the original scripture was based upon the Septuagint, the Greek translation, because that translation changed certain things where the
Yeah.
New Testament would only make sense if it was predicated upon translation, not
Okay,
the Hebrew. For
I
instance,
agree
like
with
the
you.
Jesus being a virgin in Isaiah 9:6, the Hebrew says young maiden, and it was the Greek that said virgin, and that's what led to the idea of the virgin birth.
Well,
a
here's the thing.
mistranslation error.
We don't have any of the copies of the Hebrew before the Greek. The Greek would actually be the earlier copy. But
Or there
second of
was
all-
none. Or there was.
Okay.
If Matthew's copying Mark and Mark is written in Greek and it's pure symbolic fiction, not written by an eyewitness, then Mark's not any more reliable and definitely didn't come from the Hebrew first.
Okay,
That's the
I want to
point. It's
say, okay,
Septuagint
dude,
verbatim. Yeah.
dude, listen for a second. The reason that you say that is because the Greek manuscripts are using the Septuagint to refer to them. Again, Bart Ehrman and all the other scholars will admit there is a third Old Testament that they're quoting from that does not match the Septuagint or any other Hebrew type that we have thus found. So it's not just 100% Septuagint copy paste. Well, my
Are you
point
talking
was
about Q?
no, not Q. I'm just a third type that no one's found. They don't even have a name for it. They just said there are some verses where even when Christ and the other disciples quote it, it does not match the Greek Septuagint or the Hebrew that we have found. So there's another one that they ascertain might be. The whole point of what I'm saying, though, is that the Greek copy of Matthew matches the Septuagint. But the Hebrew copy, which the church fathers insist
Which
existed,
we don't have.
okay, we don't have it, but they insist it existed, and we have intertext evidence that the people spoke Hebrew at this time, not only Greek.
But if the
right.
gospel, if Matthew was first and it started in Hebrew, when it was translated into Greek, they wouldn't go verbatim word for word that's in the Septuagint. That's how we know that it didn't start in Greek.
No, you don't know that.
Carrier refutes this in depth in his books and his blog. It it's the church fathers that claim this were wrong. It didn't come. Matthew did not start in Hebrew. The version
I don't think
we have
anybody
today, at least didn't start
has
in
addressed
Hebrew.
that. All right, we can move on, but I don't think anybody's actually addressed the Hebrew Matthew Gospel because it's a pretty lesser known theory, actually. But anyway, go ahead. If I don't think do we have time for the caller?
We're gonna move on to callers at this point.
Okay.
So,
Hey, Jeem, I'm a big fan, man. Good job.
Thanks, Chase.
I
What's up, man?
got one question for you. It's kind of a hard question. What was it like debating against a straw man position of evangelicalism that you don't even hold?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely took up probably 25% of the first half of the debate, where a lot of, Adam, what you were saying, it was true, but it was based on a sect of Christianity that is so far removed from what I follow that, as I told you, like futurism and other stuff, it's just not relevant to me.
We're asking if it's a Christian myth and what it was intended to do and what the fruits of what it's led to. It doesn't matter that you're the 2% minority and you disagree. I'm still exposing Christianity, and it's not
Christianity to Jeem is orthodoxy. Adam, do you know his position?
Wait,
silence.
Stop.
Focus. It's okay,
Stop.
buddy. It's okay. Silence. It's okay. Calm down.
Just keep talking over
What
me, and so I
is
can't refute
Jeem's
your point.
position? What is Jeem's position?
Orthodox Christianity.
Which believes what?
Listen, shut up. Every Orthodox Christian I've debated, they say this over and over again. Oh, well,
yes,
that's Protestant.
but you don't know how to debate anything but a straw man.
This is your biggest cope and mantra. And
it's
I'm
not
showing
a cope.
The scriptures.
You're debating a
Where
straw
am I
man,
wrong?
Adam.
Where am I
Adam,
wrong? What is the straw man?
Because you're debating
What
a
is the
straw man. The straw
what was
man,
the Messiah
Adam.
intended to do?
Can I answer?
What's the goal of Jehovah in the Old Testament in regards to the nations, and what was the Messiah supposed to do?
Yeah, as Jeem explained, conquering death by death and healing the human nature to allow all people to be resurrected. So now let me talk for 2 seconds. You just filibustered. No, he said you're right about that. That's what those people believe. So let me finish talking for 2 seconds before you spurg out again. It's not a cope to say you're not debating your opponent's
Answering your questions
position.
isn't spurging out, by the way. And you were the one spurging, trying to talk over me.
Did you hear what I just said?
I start responding,
you're spurging again.
And then you interrupt me, and then you say I'm spurging. So keep lying. Go ahead.
Okay,
ask your question.
Okay, that was cute. So again, it's not a cope to say you're not debating my position. It's a literal straw man. What's a straw man, Adam?
I am. This guy straw man everything I said in his video.
What is a straw man?
What did I straw man? How did I straw man?
I'm asking you, what is a straw man, Adam?
It's when you say that your opponent is giving an argument that they don't make. Oh, I won your little stupid test. I know exactly what it is.
So it's arguing against a position they don't hold, and you say, I don't care that he's Orthodox. I'm not going to argue against his position.
This is your guys' worst cope. I've heard every one of you say this.
How is it a cope,
what
Adam?
The scriptures say.
And
who don't agree with the Protestants on everything. You're not telling us anything new.
Whose interpretation of the Bible do we follow?
I never said that he believed in what the Protestants believe in.
So you're arguing against what he doesn't believe?
He believes in the Antichrist. That's enough to prove my point.
Do you argue against what he believes or not?
Yes, I do.
But you just said you don't care what he believes. You're arguing against another position, so you're admitting your straw man.
I can't talk about what mainstream Christianity teaches.
Dude, I reject mainstream Christianity, though. I reject what is mainstream in this country. That's the problem.
I know that.
And it's not just me saying. Wait. It's not just me saying I reject it.
The state of Christianity
it's not just me saying. Okay, you're right. The state of Christianity today is miserable. That doesn't mean that's the original Christianity.
So I'm not allowed to criticize it. I'm not allowed to criticize it because I don't.
But that's not what I believe in, dude.
Yeah, you still haven't even said what the straw man is. What did I straw man?
Chase, go ahead, man.
Show me the example of where I straw man.
His entire position.
No,
the entire time you're saying I don't believe in that. That's futurism.
See,
I'm talking. Do you want me to answer? You just asked me, Adam. Adam, you just asked me a question. Can I answer?
What did I straw man?
Okay, can I answer now, or are you gonna spurg out?
Keep repeating that and begging if you can answer when I'm already being quiet.
Okay, are you going to interrupt me?
Good boy. Just make your point instead of going.
So here it is. I'm talking.
You sound like such a beta. Just go.
Okay, are you done? All right, here we go.
See, he keeps
I'm talking.
Adam, you gotta let. All right, Adam, be quiet. Chase, say what you gotta say. Adam, you gotta stay quiet. Let him say what he's gotta say.
Good boy, Adam. Sit.
So,
like I was saying,
be disrespected by callers like this. You want to move to the next caller? We're going to move on.
No, I'm not done, Adam. Jeem said numerous times he doesn't believe in futurism. like you kept repeating.
No, I
He explained
specifically
his
said,
position.
I reiterated his point and said, you believe that an Antichrist is going to reign and Jesus is going to return. So I did get his position correctly.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. And I just owned you. So wrong.
No, you didn't just own me, Adam.
Next.
Okay. So again, next question, Adam. I have one more
question. Next
I know you're scared.
Lost.
I know you're scared. How is any of this
scared?
bad?
You're scared of me. You're scared of me. Do I look scared?
You are.
You're
scared of philosophy
in here
and basic
and speaking
questions.
to a bunch of dogmatic, cultish ortho bros is something a scared person would do?
Don't you have dogma, Adam?
You think taking on all
Adam,
the
don't you have
religious
dogma?
establishment everywhere is scared?
Adam,
do I seem scared debating all
you're
these
just
guys?
filibustering. You can't even let me talk.
Nobody knows who you are. Shut up.
Down. Everyone quiet.
Next caller. Next. I'm not.
You can't even let me talk. You're so scared.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
How can you say anything's bad, Adam?
All right.
Just answer that last one.
That's all Jeem tried to do. How can you say it's bad? That's
I'm
the one
asking a
argument
different
you guys
question.
go to, and it's crap.
Yeah, you don't know
bad.
basic philosophy.
Your religion is immoral. Your God's fake and bad, and it's to make.
How is it? What's immoral?
You call yourself a sheep bowing down to the God
What's
of
immoral?
the nation of priests that was intended on conquering you.
Notice he can't answer the question. What makes something immoral, Adam? Because he knows he doesn't know basic philosophy.
I already did. I already explained that.
What
Morality
makes something
does
immoral?
not come from your Bible. It's immoral.
Where does it come from?
And we can know that by reading it and using logic and seeing the effect it has on the
Right,
world.
but it would be subjective, though. That's the
You
problem.
realize that logic, the
and your
modalities.
understanding of the Bible is subjective too. You decide what it says.
But the God who made
according
No.
to whatever your church fathers say is what it is.
No, we have an actual normative authority body on
Yeah,
it.
what
And
the
here's the
church
thing, though,
fathers,
Adam.
what they debated and agreed on. Your appeal
Can
to
you let me
authority.
talk for more than 2 seconds? Thank you. So, again, when you say, "Oh, I can just look and say that it's bad," I'm asking,
No, you have to
and
make arguments
Jeem,
that it's bad.
I'm asking for your justification for what makes something bad. What's your standard, Adam?
I told you the effect that it has on people, the intent for it.
That's begging the question,
The
Adam.
results? No, it's not.
Yes, it is. What makes those effects
You're begging
bad?
the question.
Hey,
Hold on.
Chase,
It's so
Chase,
funny
can
that
I
you
clarify?
Go ahead.
Adam, wait a
Hold
second,
on.
guys.
No. He
I'm
said
just gonna
begging
clarify
the
what I
question.
said.
Tag is begging the question.
All
where you
right,
have your
fine.
No,
premise.
you don't know basic
You have your
philosophy, dude.
conclusion in the
Guys,
premise.
let me
You
please.
can't have morals without my God.
Adam,
Checkmate.
Adam,
You guys
all
suck.
right,
This is suck. Everybody,
let
the
Jeem
tag argument
talk,
is a joke.
Adam, you need to let Jeem talk.
Okay.
When is let me talk?
What Chase is trying.
You've
Dude, I've
been
been silent
talking,
for
dude.
3 minutes. Listen, what Chase is trying to say is, let's take genocide for example in the Old Testament. You said it's bad because of the effect it has on other people. Chase and I would ask, why do we care about what happens to other people?
That's pathetic. Why is genocide bad? That's literally all you ortho bros can go to. Why is that bad? Why is it bad that they want to conquer us and mentally enslave us with their religion?
No, we have an answer for why it's bad.
Why is genocide bad? Really?
No,
You guys
why do
look
I
pathetic
care?
saying this?
Dude, why do I care what other people
feel
feel like?
Do you want your children to be genocided?
You do believe in
Do
the
you want to
golden
treat
rule.
others?
You do believe in the
golden rule is one way of knowing what's moral.
It's pretty funny, actually. All right, what's the next caller?
All right. We're going on to Ezekiel.
Oh, I know this guy. What's up, man?
All right. Hey, what's up, guys? So in regards to Adam, I'll address a couple of points and then Jeem can debate us with Adam. I just wanted to bring them out. So regarding the immorality of God, whatever you say on that issue, in Romans chapter 9, it just says, will the clay vessel say to the potter, why have you made me this way? So in this way, in contrast to the Platonic scheme, there is not a deity or something above God to hold him accountable. So whenever God says something, his subjective decree is what is law, basically. So in the case of the Canaanites, I think what Chase and Jeem have failed to mention is during the time of the Exodus, those Canaanites were committing human sacrifices to Moloch. And then God said, okay, first of all, they're worshiping a fake deity. And the second thing is they're committing human sacrifices. So in that case, they were trying to curb some of the world's evils. The second point is on penal substitutionary atonement. I know that Jeem doesn't necessarily hold to it, but the logic of it is if you go to Genesis chapter 4, verse 10, could someone pull that up, please? So I can just read that, so you can just see it.
Yeah, I'll get it up.
Yeah. So I'm just going to explain the verse and then you can read it. So basically what that says is when Cain slew Abel, God says in accommodated language, so a language we can understand, is like the blood of Abel cries out to him, and he requires propitiation for sin in that case. So the reason why you have a substitutionary atonement with killing animals while also believing in God that will eliminate your sins is because in this instance, because the life is in the blood, as per the Bible, once blood is spilled, there needs to be an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. That is the standard of the Old Testament, which is given. And one thing I'm going to actually concede to Adam, which no one has so far done, is in Romans chapter 2, verses 12 to 14. There is something that Paul says that everyone glosses over, everyone. And he says that the Gentiles do the parts of the law that are natural to the law, meaning that there is a commonality between pagan morality and Israelite morality. It's just that the Gentiles don't have the finer points of the law, for instance, on how to do ritualistic cleansing or what punishments are adequate for stealing. I'll give you an example. The Bible just says if you steal something, you have to give 5 times back the worth of what you stole. But in the Ottoman lands, for instance, in Ottoman Muslim countries, in the past, you would get your hands cut off, which is, for instance, not found anywhere in the Bible. So there is a commonality. In pagans, they punish theft as does the Bible, but the severity of the punishment is where the philosophers and all of the pagan nations go astray. And one final point I would add, well,
You still there, Ezekiel?
You went silent.
Oh, how long? Oh,
For
shit.
10 seconds.
A few
With your
seconds, yeah.
retard.
So I'll just give the floor back to Jeem in this case. I brought these points out. So Romans chapter 2 is important because Paul does mention that the Gentiles do the parts of the law that are natural to the law of Moses. That's all.
Right. So to clarify what my friend was saying, Adam, he's essentially saying not everything that pagans did is like, oh, we got to remove it. It's all garbage. It's just they don't have the finer points which are clarified in the morality of the Bible. That's it. That's what Paul's talking about. Like the law is written on the heart of man, like knowing basic decency, but you need the finer points because even if we know basic decency, what do we do about someone murdered? What's the punishment for that? Well, we need the finer points of the scripture for that.
They had laws against murder before the 10 Commandments. Paul thought he was on a chosen prophetic mission to be the light to the Gentiles, to get the Gentiles to abandon their idols and worship the God of Israel. You agree with that? That's the conspiracy. Even if he had good intentions, he's a product of trying to fulfill the Torah agenda, which is theological conquest on the nations.
Okay. Well, we've gone over that like a million times. Guess we should just get to the next call.
Sure.
How long do we have, Kyle? We've got 3 hours.
Over 3 hours. Also, he said like, oh, it's against human sacrifice. Like, Jesus is the new Isaac. It's based on human sacrifice. They flip it back and forth between animal sacrifice and then a perfect sacrifice in heaven of Jesus, but it's still all predicated on the concept of blood atonement, scapegoat,
Right.
Yom Kippur sacrifices.
Yeah, God doesn't say God says there's nothing wrong with that, but that Jesus is the final one. So you can't go sacrificing your neighbor or an animal because Jesus already fulfilled it. So that ends human sacrifice in the world because he's the final one. That's the point of it.
I agree with that. It ends it, but it's also still affirming the power of an animal sacrifice and a human sacrifice.
All right, let's
We're
go to
moving
Nick.
on to Nick TBR. Nick, what's your question, man?
My question is for Adam. What's up, Jeem? Do you think Christianity is a pacifist religion?
Didn't Jeem ask this already earlier?
Nick, let's go to a different
that can
one.
be interpreted as pacifist, but it's also it's a conquering religion. Really, it teaches proselytizing. I mean, what the scripture says and what actual Christianity did is very different. And obviously, I'm saying that it spread the Torah around the world and conquered much of the world for the God of Israel. So not completely pacifist.
So when Jesus says that he's gonna slaughter the youths that follow Jezebel, he's gonna the town that rejects the Son will reach a fate worse than Sodom and Gomorrah. Is that pacifism?
Jesus says he's going to slaughter who? I'm sorry?
The youths that follow Jezebel. Is that pacifism?
Did he do that, or he needs to come back in the end to do that? And
how is that pacifism?
I already said you guys believe what the rabbis believe, that the Messiah is going to come and be a military victorious leader over the world.
No, he's going to do it in an instant.
He's coming with the sword and the blood. That doesn't sound pacifist to me. No,
he's doing it in an instant. He's not going to come lead an army to destroy Rome. The rabbis were completely false and wrong about that, and they've been crying about it for 2,000 years. That was our point.
It says he's going to conquer Edom.
Yeah, Edom is not Rome.
Yeah, you keep doing this. This is
They've
the word
always
concept
called it
outside.
Rome. Then, well, if you say Edom doesn't exist, so he's gonna come back and conquer somebody that doesn't exist?
Who? Where's the exact citation where Jesus says, "I will conquer Edom"?
Isaiah 63. Malachi is about the Messiah end times. Edom being
Edom
destroyed.
has already been conquered and destroyed. Not everything in the Bible, Old or New Testament, is like way off in the future. A lot of it's already been fulfilled.
There's Zechariah and the 4 kingdoms, the 4 beasts. The final one is Rome. Rome represents Babylon in the Revelation as well. It's all about destroying Rome. That's the whole
pagan
purpose of the
Rome. It's not
Messiah.
about facing white people though. Like they don't care about the ethnicity.
I didn't say anything about white people.
Okay,
I didn't say
fine.
anything about
Just
white people.
making it clear because some
Rome.
people who follow you tend in that direction. So I thought I'd clarify it. But yeah, pagan Rome, the empire, was eventually turned into Christian Rome in the Byzantine side. But
And who
it was
had that
never
goal?
collapsed.
Who had the goal to get them to worship the God of Israel?
Right, but here's the problem.
Who
the
had it?
rabbis
Just answer
did
it.
not like how
Who answered?
those people ended up worshiping the God
They
of
wanted
Israel.
their
They
Messiah
call
to conquer
Christianity
Rome. And what
blasphemy,
did
dude.
Christianity do? It conquered
Dude, they
Rome.
say Christianity
And who started this movement?
You do realize
Exclusively
rabbinic
Jewish movement.
Jews. No, you do realize if a rabbinic Jew converts to Buddhism or Islam or Hinduism, they're still called Jews by their community. If they become a Christian, they actually get disbarred. They hate Christianity more than anything in the whole world.
No, there's actually lots of Messianic Jews.
No,
And
Messianic
Jews for
Jews
Judaism.
are non-Jews.
Jews for Jesus.
Are majority non-Jews who become Messianic, and some of them who are racial Jews who become Christian, Messianic Jew, they're rejected by the rabbinic Jewish community. They think it's blasphemy to even worship Christ or even venerate him, and in their Talmud they say horrible things about him. Like they absolutely hate him.
He's not for them. He's for the Gentiles.
Then why couldn't you celebrate him as, hey, this isn't our guy, but he was generally good, like Nebuchadnezzar?
They do that. They say that.
They don't. They don't.
Yeah, they
In
do.
their
They say
Talmud,
Christianity
he's
saved
burning
them.
in hell. They say he's burning in hell in the Talmud.
Yeah, that was written much later.
Oh, now you agree with that? I'm the one who was saying the Talmud was not written at that time period.
It does say that.
All right, let's agree on that.
It's not surprising that some ancient rabbi would say something mean about Jesus, considering how the Christians treated him. I don't find that shocking at all.
I still think that Maimonides just saying, oh, the Christian religion has spread. It claims to believe in our God. Therefore, we were successful. Is not really sound reasoning.
He doesn't say it claims to believe in the God. It plainly worships the God of Israel, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Because he believes in natural theology, but
Is
the
he
Orthodox
wrong?
don't really believe in that.
Did Christianity and Islam not bring the idea of the Torah Messiah to the nations? Is he wrong about that?
The Torah Messiah.
Is
Islam doesn't.
Maimonides wrong about that?
He's wrong about that. Yeah,
No, he's
his
not.
version of the Messiah.
You've already
is not the
conceded
same
that.
type.
You already
It's not the
conceded.
same. Their version of the Messiah is an ethnically Jewish guy who's going to conquer Rome and elevate the Jews to a higher
And
position.
Jesus was Jewish and conquered Rome.
Did he elevate the Jews or did he denigrate them?
Yeah,
and
he
cause
elevated
their-
them to a chosen status. He says
Dude, they
salvation
got-
comes from the Jews. He says they
that
sit
was
in the
already
seat
in
of
the Old
Moses.
Testament. No, he says the Pharisees talking to other Jews. He's saying these guys, the Pharisees, sit in the seat of Moses. Do as they say,
Yeah, do as
Moses,
they say,
but not as they do.
Do as the Pharisees say.
No. He was talking to fellow Jews. He didn't go to the Greeks and say, hey, guys, you got to follow the Pharisees. He was talking to his fellow kinsmen and saying, these guys teach the law. If they teach what's sound, follow them. If they don't and they're wrong, if they ever go above the law or around it, you have to leave them. But saying the concept of the Messiah for the rabbis is not the same concept we have. Maybe we should go to the next caller.
It's slightly
Oh,
different.
can I
It's all
just finish
predicated
something?
on the
Let me
same
just finish
prophecies.
something.
Aren't we wrapping at 3 hours?
Wait, let Nick
Oh,
finish.
let me
Let
finish
Nick finish.
I'm just gonna quote Jeem here. If you're gonna have a mind-dependent ideology, you might as well base your ideology on the mind of God, the greatest mind in the cosmos, instead of the infantile mind of an atheist debater. Okay, that's it.
We don't know what the mind of God says. All you have are ancient scriptures of a chosen people pretending to speak for God.
Okay, I've said again,
that's
the
the
New
reality of
Testament
what we
does
have.
not say that the Jews are chosen anymore. When they're in the New Covenant, that's it.
Dude,
it's over.
again,
they're not chosen
I
anymore.
acknowledge you believe in replacement theology. You think their covenant's
No,
over.
the New Testament
you think
says
there's a new covenant.
not everybody
you think
who's
you're the
of
chosen
Abraham
people
and
now.
Israel.
You're the
All right, we're
Israel
going
now.
on to
Okay,
Logan here.
let's move on.
Logan, what's
You
your
believe
question?
they were once chosen. That's
Adam,
the argument.
Adam.
And it's
Only
true.
for a few
Logan,
centuries, dude.
Logan
Not
is
forever.
up now. Logan, go ahead with your question.
All right, so I wanted to ask real quick, how exactly in your narrative do you explain the fact that what you would still call Judaism at that point? Because from what I can tell, you're trying to say Christianity is a Jewish construction in order to conquer Rome, theologically at least. But
Yeah, how exactly in your narrative do you account for the fact that there was such a huge divide between what would eventually become Rabbinic Judaism and Christianity, and that they battled and argued so endlessly to the point that they became completely different religions with such completely different beliefs, especially on the Messiah that they were both waiting for?
Yeah, it's the dialectic of Esau and Jacob. You're not saying anything that questions any of the theory. One group of ancient Judaists believed somebody was the Messiah. The others didn't. In fact, the creators of Christianity saw from reading the scriptures that this wasn't a religion for the chosen people. From the scriptures, they saw, and this is why this is how it was created, that it would be rejected by them and then go to the Gentiles. And Paul and the Old Testament, the New Testament, it shows all of those scriptural connections, the logic and the reasoning and the exegesis on why it was a religion for the Gentiles. This was created for the Gentile world.
Dude, no. A lot of Jews in the 1st century and even 2nd and 3rd century became Christians. They just lost their Jewish identity. It was not saying every racial Jew on earth was going to reject Christianity. It's saying there will be some who try to stick to the Sinai covenant, which they broke, Jeremiah 31 to 33.
I agree.
It says he broke the covenant, so now he's looking for the Gentiles to be his new Levitical priest. That's what God says.
A remnant, it says. Again, this is just vindicating everything I'm saying.
I disagree.
And if we're going to keep going...
Go ahead, Logan. It's your time.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say, it seems like it's just capitulating and collapsing into a false dialectic. Because, as Jeem said, to everything I'm understanding, the majority of early Christians were ethnic Jews that abandoned cultural Judaism in order to integrate with the Gentiles that would also become Christians.
Yes, the Jesus movement was started by Torah observant believers in the prophecies of the Torah. I mean, it's exactly what I say, and I'm not sure what point you're trying to make here.
I think, based on what Mr. E said, we're at 3 hours 12 minutes. I mean, I'm pretty good. Like, I'm satisfied. If we want to call it here, unless Adam, you want to continue, I'm good.
I was going to ask you guys. It's up to you. We got other callers lined up. If you want to keep going, if you want to wrap it up now, that's fine. Understandable.
I just feel like we're getting some of the same questions, so
a little bit.
Know.
Yeah.
Up to you,
I've
Adam.
been streaming for over 5 hours straight, basically, from my stream earlier to now. And
okay, well, we very much appreciate your time and having you here, Adam. Definitely. So,
I was going to get into some Romans, Paul quoting Hosea about going to the nations. I will say to those that called not my people, you are my people. And that's in the Talmud, the same verse, Hosea. I think it's 2:23, Hosea 2:23. The Talmud says the same thing. This is about converting the Gentiles. Paul was following the same verse that the Talmud says about converting the nations to believe in the God.
Well, let me answer really
Israel.
quick. The Talmud is total mental gibberish, and they flip-flop and change their minds all over the place. Like in the Talmud, modern Judaism, they say Isaiah 53, the suffering Messiah. You read that 1 hour. You alluded to it earlier. They all say, yeah, that's not the Messiah. That's just the kingdom of Israel. That's just
actually
the Jews.
Not true. That's not true. Also,
right.
In Sanhedrin, I think 98b, it says, they do say that they're talking about the name of the Messiah, and they talk about something about
but the issue is that if you
cite Isaiah 53, showing that some of them did see it as messianic.
You're not getting what I'm saying. If you ask Jews today anywhere in any synagogue, they will all deny that Isaiah 53 is about the Messiah, even if their own Talmud says the opposite. They don't even agree with their own religion. It's mental illness. They also say Rashi said it is definitely about King Messiah. That's one of their greatest scholars ever. Except now, ask the guys you've had on your channel, like Rabbi.
They don't want it to look like Jesus is the
whatever.
Messiah. That's why they say it's about the suffering servant is Israel.
Right, but they don't think it's any Messiah.
The original Christians read that out of context. They were reading Daniel 7 and 9. They were reading Isaiah 52, 53, and all over Isaiah, all the Psalms, and that was the whole Jesus story can be read out of that. Zechariah's Wisdom of Solomon. You can find the whole foundation
I don't
of the Jesus story.
Let me interrupt you real quick.
Few passages
I don't
in those
understand
chapters.
What's wrong with saying, yeah, the Old Testament predicts that this would happen. Like we fully
This is the
acknowledge
whole
that.
thing.
You're just saying it's a bad thing.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because you believe that Jesus fulfilled 300, 400 prophecies of the Old Testament. Again, and I ask you, is it not more likely that they knew all of these prophecies, they had these texts in front of them, and they made us? It's not hard to write a story fulfilling prophecies when you know all the prophecies. It's not hard to write Ghostbusters 2 when you know Ghostbusters 1. That's why
but
it's
they
a myth.
all reject.
That's how it was
they all
constructed.
reject that religion,
Mythological, symbolic fiction, fake prophecy fulfillment. That's what
Are you
Paul and
aware-
the first Christians were doing. That's what the Gospels are.
Are you aware that just because today, or even in the time of Maimonides, Jews softened a little on Christianity and appealed to natural theology, that's not how it was in the ancient day. Before Islam, there was a kingdom in Yemen that was fully Jewish.
You're not addressing my point at all. You ignored my whole point.
I will address it. I'm giving a little background.
Is it more likely that they made it up or that all these magical things happen? It's very...
All right, guys. You can have like one more back and forth, and then we are going to wrap up.
All right, my final thing, I'll just say, if you suppose that God does not exist and there are no miracles or magical things, then in your view, according to Occam's razor, it would be more likely that they made it up. But in my view, where I accept that God is real, it's not at all unfathomable that, the prophecies would actually be prophecies. I mean, we're just basically
we have stories of prophecies fulfilled. There's two explanations. A guy actually did all these things, or they made it up.
Well, again,
one requires magic and one doesn't.
It's not magic.
If there's a natural explanation that doesn't require magic, that's what happened. They made it up. It's a fiction.
But 90% of the miracles, and most atheist scholars today say Jesus Christ was a real human being who existed. They just don't think he's the Son of God.
That's a false consensus that I've been debunking.
The biggest ones do. The biggest ones do.
No,
like Bart Ehrman says
biblical scholars. He's a joke. He's
Ehrman's a joke.
Not credible. Yeah, he went to Moody Bible Institute. He was a Christian Zionist into his adult life. He was trained and indoctrinated by Bruce Metzger, who was a conservative pastor.
Okay, so you do know that Chicago, where I currently live, I've driven past the Moody Bible Institute, actually a hub of massive Catholic influence, not like Jewish influence. The Jews all live in the suburbs.
It's Christian. I didn't say it was Jewish influence. I just said his mentor
was a
conservative pastor. The point is that you can't cite Bart Ehrman, the fallacy of citing Bart Ehrman like he's the high priest and the be-all and end-all on the historical Jesus question.
He's not the be-all. He's
the historical Jesus, this consensus is bunk, and it's been maintained and protected by predominantly a religious influenced biblical studies. It's always been that way. My last video is actually all about that, so people can check it out.
So Bart
no
Ehrman,
more news on Rumble.
Wait. Let's use your Occam's razor now. Bart Ehrman spends his whole life debunking the Bible just to, by sleight of hand, prove Jesus is true so that people keep believing in the Bible.
No, not his whole life. He's made a career on telling you who the real Jesus was, and he's got a mental block and doesn't want to
but he wants everybody to not follow Christianity.
He's wrong. I'm writing in my book about how his arguments are wrong. They're
severely
flawed.
Bart Ehrman is not a sheikh or anything. Like, he's not infallible. I just gave one example. That's all.
You have to say that, because if you cite him as credible and he's right, then you realize he says most of Jesus' story is all mythological and agrees with me.
No, I don't have to agree with every single thing that Bart Ehrman says. I just quoted one guy who said Jesus was a real human being. Now, Bart Ehrman also says that Paul had a different theology than Christ. Well, I disagree with him. He's not an infallible human being, Bart. Anyway, we're not going to get past the issue of, I think these prophecies are a good thing. You think they're a bad thing / fake. I think this is a good place to call it off. You said you've been streaming for 5 hours, so unless anyone else has a really important question, I'm good, basically.
I'm good. Thank you, Jeem, for being respectful and good back and forth. Good sparring, as they described it.
That was good. Yeah, we got kind of aggressive, but that was a good
sparring. That wasn't aggressive. There was not one name calling. There wasn't even any insults, really.
No, I don't do ad hominems. I mean,
it was
just
respectful.
Viewpoint. It was good. Good fire.
And if anybody, I've gone way in depth on all the reasons in Paul that Jesus started as a myth. Just did a video a couple weeks ago, the Jesus myth, my playlist on my Odyssey. I'm sure all of you Ortho Bros are going to go run over there as soon as possible.
Should we do like a closing statement, each of us?
I already kind of
That's what I was just about to say.
Regurgitate everything I've been saying the whole time.
I'll do one.
I will.
You guys have kind of had we've kind of done the little closing statement thing, but if you want to definitely take a minute to shout out your channels, let everybody in the chat know where they can find you.
Yeah, okay, so my channel is Jeem Apologetics. I wrote a book on Amazon. Just read it. Like, it's better than live streams and stuff. I do a lot of video, but I think the book has most of my opinions summed up. I don't conquer archaeology like was mentioned with that Corinth Coper guy, but we do talk about textual criticism and other things in the book. So if you want a more clear understanding of who I am, check my channel, check out my book. And yeah, thanks guys for organizing this debate.
Yeah,
Go
I'm
ahead, Adam.
disappointed that this can't stay up on YouTube, but I understand Crucible Andrew not wanting to lose his big channel he's got here now with all the whatever podcast fame he's been having.
Where's it
recently.
going now? The video? This one.
It'll be on our website, the crucible.video.
Okay.
And Rumble? No, you're going to upload it to Rumble? Because the last debate I did, the guy was so bad, you guys may remember Andrew had to jump on and kick him off, and that didn't get posted, so I was disappointed with that.
What was
but
that?
Thank you for setting it up. Thank you for modding. Thank you, Jeem, for being arguing the other side of the debate. And no more news is how you can find me, KNOW, no_more_news on Twitter. And playlist The Jesus Deception on Odyssey at No More News, and streaming on Rumble, No More News.